And we are now recording, which is very nice. If you've just joined, go ahead and put your name in the attendance section in the common notes. And I'll repeat the links one more time. So this common notes. And my slides. So the common notes has the agenda for today, but Margreet and I were talking yesterday, and we thought it would be a good idea to alter the agenda slightly this morning, just to kind of open it up for a little discussion and some feedback from day one. So let's just go ahead and take 15 minutes here or so to kind of have that discussion. The agenda for today is basically just the overview about the metadata template that we'll be working with, the Dataset metadata template. And then Nicola has developed a bunch of nice exercises for us that will take us through the time today. So maybe at this point, Margreet, I can ask you to initiate the feedback discussion here.
Yes, thank you, Eric. Good morning, everybody. So everybody has been working hard to participate in the development of the third template for data and metadata. And some people are wondering how to deal with that for our projects. And there are some general questions in different wordings. They came to us, and a few of them are like, what is the role of the data steward and the researcher who is actually going to fill in the templates? To what level of detail should we fill in the templates? So are we going to provide metadata on each variable, or on the level of or on another aggregation level? And there are also some questions about the timeline. Well, that's more an organizational thing, but I think the first two questions are good to discuss today. And then another point is that quite some people already provide or produce metadata, for instance, for a repository where the data are stored, or because an institute has a catalog in which metadata are presented. And maybe we could also look into the difference. What is this metadata set now compared to the other metadata sets? What is so special about this one? And maybe even, should we provide information about my data set is also presented in another catalog or a repository, and mention that in our metadata sets? So I think there are three main questions: role, researcher, and data stewards, the level of detail the metadata, and the issue of other metadata sets compared to this one. Maybe other people have some more issues, but these are the three I took home.
I can try to provide some, not some, like answers to all three questions. I think it will depend. For the first question about role of data steward versus researcher, I think it will depend from one research group to another. In some research groups, researchers are very capable of filling in the templates, and they're into the technical aspects as well of the platforms where they're using. In other research groups, that role will be more geared towards the data steward, which is located and allocated inside of the research group or data steward, which is on kind of departmental level. So what we have at DTU, for example, we have our own internal data publishing platform, which allows us to get the DOI. It's an instance of Figshare. So what happens typically is that researchers are filling in a template, which is very similar to the CEDAR one that we are working on. And then there is a submission, like saying like publish, and then another set of another employees of DTU, in this case DTU library, are checking whether everything is properly filled in. Of course, they don't know anything about our domain, but they know about generic stats. So you have this kind of, let's say, to put it simple, you have two levels of metadata that you provide. Metadata, which are very generic, that anybody with a sufficient training of data stewardship can go through and figure out that everything is okay. For example, detecting that ORCID ID is not properly provided because it's the full URL instead of just those digits at the end. And then there are these specific metadata which are geared towards the domain, where generic or general data steward is not capable of figuring out or filling in this case. So that's where you need somebody with the knowledge of domain to help. So maybe a hybrid solution is probably what you will see. Their data stewards will be able to fill in the templates to a certain point, but then they need help from researchers, or vice versa, where the researchers don't know all the intrinsic parts about these more genetic things that we are trying to implement here, like, you know, what is actually how ORCID ID really looks like, and things that the data stewards really know. So that's the first question. Second question was about, remind me again, Margaret. I know about the third one, which is very interesting. So, level of details. So level of details is the good thing about CEDAR is, like you will see in this generic dataset metadata template, we really we don't force more than 13 fields to be filled in. And those 13 fields, the reason why they are required is because they are mandatory to be supplied eventually if you want to generate DOI. Or if you're, like, coming back to the third question, relating to your third question, if the data set, if you already provided metadata information about data set, you get the DOI, you already did fill in those 13 fields. So you can move them to the generic dataset metadata template. And it will really, and here is where Eric can tell you a bit more about, like, what makes a community and this verification roadmap there. It's a community thing to define how rich it is. So we are providing a possibility to be extremely rich because there's 100 fields that you can fill in, but which of those fields your community define as rich when they're filling in, it's really up to the decision of the community. And now coming back to the third question about, hey, we already made this somewhere. What is the advantage of filling in again the same thing? Well, the problem with today's data publishing platforms or the services which are there, such as, for example, I keep on referring to Zenodo or B2Share, is that they are not machine actionable. They don't really make use of control vocabulary. So basically everything is like a free text at the end of the day, apart from maybe licenses. So the advantage is that we're really putting this into the semantic artifact that can be queried, as we showed yesterday through this linked data approach, how then machines can be employed to find exactly the data set that you want. And another thing is that down the pipeline, as you already saw on Health RI platform, once you make machine actionable metadata templates, you can create very quickly domain-specific search platforms, data search, semantic search platforms, and you can enable this faceted search, so you can actually subset and quickly find the data set that you want, and and different stakeholders will make use of that platform in a different way. For funders, it's just to figure out, for example, to figure out how many specific data sets was created by this project, or for researchers, like what kind of what data sets out there that have these specific variables and this specific set of subject that I can tackle with. So that's the advantage. It's really moving from classical publishing way where you don't have these control vocabularies and basically fuse with your templates and instances, to something that really help you down the line to build the services on top of it, such as one of them, as I was mentioning, like a semantic search platform, which is critical considering the amount of data that we are generating.
So Nicola, regarding the third question there, then, so what are we to do then with the existing repositories? You know, that if you have, for example, genomic data, there's a few repositories that will accept the genomic readouts, and not all of those repositories, like you say, have machine actionable metadata on it. So what's then the relationship between the metadata that we create and the metadata that we're obliged to provide when we deposit our resource, you know, in that repo?
So once it is, as we demonstrated yesterday, once it is into machine actionable form, it's really required just to write very small scripts that will convert from what is machinic representation into the specific format that a specific repository requires. So we are going like exactly what I think Eric has on one of the points, like going from more generic and then like funneling to the specific needs of a specific repository. So we are more open in the sense that we can modify and prepare it for whatever platform there is to intake what we are building. And another advantage is because, as you probably noticed, once you instantiated the templates in Cedar today, that you can always go back and modify and improve your metadata. So referring back to your initial question, Margaret's second question about level of details, you can, because template is always there. So you fill in certain amount of certain parts of the template, and then eventually you collect extra information about the data set that you're describing. So you can always go and improve and add more information as you go through. And the same way how we are building control vocabulary. So the template that we were using yesterday, we so far like filled in maybe 2 or 3 columns, but as a knowledge and requirement for detail of information grows, you can always go back and improve and add more. So we are, as we were referring yesterday, like building a machine while flying, here is like improving level of details and provide more and more metadata as we go through the process. And this is all again come back to this hard work that we usually tend to neglect, which is maintenance of everything that we build and provide, and that's crucial as a long-term like vision of how to go forward.
Can I ask something? Because
yes,
the question about how detailed you are going in that template was mine. It isn't necessary to describe your variables in that template. That's the whole part of it. How deep are you going into describing your data? For every data set, you need a new template. That's what I got from the workshops. But how deep are you going to describe your data? Is it at a general level? Or is it at variable level and value level? That's the question.
Sure. So basically, I mean, a template has, as you said, like channel level, it provides you both possibilities. Either that you can list variables which are part of the data set, and like you can even go to the channel levels where you can, like, as we call them, data streams. So again, like it really depends how much, what level of details you want to provide. I would say that in the first instance, you list all the variables which are stored inside of the data set.
Yes, but then I think a lot of us have a problem, because we have code books made for all the questionnaires we send to the patients, and we have thousands of variables.
Thousands of variables.
Yes.
Maybe I can help, Karin.
Yes.
If the code book is published somewhere, For example, it's a standardized code book like the WHO did with the CRF case record form, or it's a questionnaire which might be published at NICTIS, which is currently being taken up because we realized that those code books should be publicly available, even if they are paid for, right? And then an option would be that in the CEDAR template, you link towards the definition of that code book. So you don't should repeat things which are available. But if the code book is not available and you publish your data set, then nobody can use it, right? Because they don't know what your data is about. So it's a question of whether the code book is available or it's included in the data set. It could also be as a description, but then it should be part of the delivery of the data set. Then you can still link out to a distribution and include the code book as a part of the distribution instead of having to repeat everything. So I wouldn't do double work, so to say.
No.
It's a lot. It's really a lot of work when you have to describe all your variables. In our university, we have a code book, and that's also the code book Data Hub uses. And Data Hub is the department where we store our data of our projects, and that's it's a code book we have to use because otherwise we can't store there. The problem is our code book is in Dutch because the questionnaires go to the patients in Dutch. So it's also work to translate. So it's still a lot of work.
No, I agree. And what I can hear, and if understood correctly, code book is basically something that can be translated into what we were doing in the day one of the workshop. So creating really like a control book, because it contains variables. So should be a control vocabulary that has both in the multi-language description of the variables that are stored. And so what is interesting and what I really like about CEDAR is that it has what is called API. So part of the template itself can be machinically filled in for you. So if you have 1,000 variables, there is no point that you write those manually, that you go inside and click 1,000 times. There is no point in doing that. That's why we can, with very simple scripting, do that automatically. So at least that field of the whole template is machinically populated, and rest of it is then like done by the data steward. Jessica, you have the hand up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Micah said to raise a hand if you had a question. So just you mentioned a few times, Nicola, about the simple scripting.
Yeah.
Because the one thing, this idea of like using scripts to try and take advantage of the code books, or even on a general level, it's not quite clear to me right now how exactly, if we're, say, going forward using the CEDAR templates for other projects, how we make this all findable by the world. Like,
maybe Jessica, I can help, because like Karen and most of us, I am with my feet in the mud, as we call it, because also in the pathology field, we have Dutch code books, so to say. And the idea is that since we have to repeat it every time a new version comes out or somebody changes the name of a variable, we decided, and that's a lot of work still, to make it linked to an ontology. And in the Netherlands, we especially, I'm just talking about, let's say, the general medicine and healthcare, because I cannot speak for, let's say, other domains. The Dutch codes have been linked to an international coding system, and the international coding system has different languages. So the same term automatically translates to Spanish, Dutch, English, German, French. And to do that, of course, it takes effort, but we have started there. And now certain, let's say, 10 or 20% of those Dutch code books are, as we call it, automatically translated in the language you prefer, by just making it linked to international code books. It's still a lot of work, but that's instead of using scripts, which you have still to check. That's because the script just proposes a term.
Yeah.
So there are multiple ways.
It's more of a general question than just like talking about translation. It's the idea of, it's not quite clear to me going forward that it feels like there's a lot of steps happening that you all are taking care of for us, like finding a way to take our metadata that is in CDAR and putting it on HealthRI or some other fair data point. And there's talk of scripts, and I'm just trying to take as much from this in terms of also how I can bring it back to the FOO and reapply it. And so it's not quite clear to me how, where, if I make my own CDAR template and populate it, then what? what
Okay,
more?
yeah,
Like
so, okay, yeah.
I think I'm just missing a step somewhere along the way of how do we go forward from here? Like yeah, it's a sort of multi-pronged thing of like two things. Of one of how often are we writing our own ontologies, but also how do we take all this work that we've done and sort of repeat it? And there's just this set step that I feel like I'm missing. How are we like making all of this information as available to the world as possible?
So I now understand your question. So if I'm not mistaken, Eric, together with Nikolai and Barbara, we have been writing a kind of guideline. We have a mini guideline and a, let's say, extensive guideline. And I suggest, Jessica, that we take a kind of workflow approach, because you start somewhere and you end somewhere and you want to do something with it. Is that in that guideline, those steps will be described, at least as much as we know it, because we, as Eric stated, we are all still learning. And especially on your question, if I have a CDAR template and I populate it, it's at CDAR, and I want to list it on my own website, for example, what should I do? Those kind of things are currently not in the guideline, but if there is need, then we should let's say give hints for that part as well. So maybe that's Eric, maybe that's an idea that the guideline, we have a mini guideline, but we should have we also do have an extensive guideline, and see if we can how do you call it, try to get the guideline to the next level, in the sense that people know, okay, if I want to do this step or that step.
Well, I think the other part of this equation, this whole experience is really intended to be a kind of kickstart. And a lot of these questions are questions that I think will more and more be answered by the data stewards themselves. So, what's the level of granularity to record your metadata? So Nicola already hinted that, these are decisions that can be made at the community level. So there can be agreements among groups, however they wish to define themselves, what the level of granularity is that we're shooting for, and how metadata should be exposed is another decision that can be made. And I think so a lot of these very, very technical, very, very methodological questions are them in and of themselves kind of easy to make. We have a few options and we can choose them. The real question, I think, is coming back to, well, who's the community that's making these choices? And what we've started with, what we've kickstarted this whole thing with, is that we are part of the Zonum Ve COVID research program. And that's the umbrella now organization, in a way, that's the, this is the auspices under which we do these metadata for machine workshops. So what we do here with the CDAR forms and the vocabularies, they apply in a limited way to the 130 projects in the COVID research program. Next week, we begin working with the infectious disease antimicrobial resistance group. And for now, anyways, that will be seen as a new community, kind of overlapping heavily with COVID, infectious disease, obviously, but still different. They have a different agenda. They work with farm animals, for example, with antimicrobial resistance. So they're going to have slightly different vocabulary needs. But what we're going to do starting next week is ask this group, this community, to consider reusing the vocabulary and the templates that were created in the COVID program.
Yeah, Eric, but Jessica's point is a good one, because the community, as we now speak about, is about the content. So it's about the metadata, the description of the metadata, the ontologies. But there are also certain aspects. A data steward then needs a colleague at the IT department, so to say, to provide certain certain tooling is already available, as Nikolai excellently explained yesterday and probably today. But there are also certain parts which are outside the community, for which you need, let's call it, another community, right? So you would like the building the COVID portal is not done by the data stewards. It's in this case a company, right? So in that sense, the workflow from start to end is longer and bigger than the community. So the community should know what are the boundaries and what are their tasks or obligations or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And then they should be able to reach out to either experts in the IT. At the VU, there is an IT department which they can reach, but they should tell what they want and what they need to do, something like that.
Well,
so those kind of answers.
Indeed, understood. I would still say that this is really a negotiation or a framing of communities then. So there's the content communities, there's the larger infrastructure communities, and there's also in the mix, let's say the mandating communities. So Zone and They, Health RI, NPOS, there's policy level organizations that are also here making choices with us or, among us. So, and I think then what we can do, what we are initiating now is defining questions that belong to these different communities. And so, when it comes to the granularity of metadata capture in antimicrobial resistance, there's people there that are, appropriately positioned to make those decisions. What happens to that metadata instance afterwards or in the long-term future, that's a set of questions that should circulate among people in other communities as well. So for me, it's sort of this, we mentioned last Monday as well, we will have a governance workshop, June 16th. And so some of these community issues are these long-term issues are gonna surface beginning in that workshop, but it's gonna involve a different cross-section of stakeholders than we have, for example, in these M4M workshops that we're doing right now. So indeed, there's a bunch of interesting questions at different levels, and different stakeholders are positioned to come up with answers in those.
Eric, if I just may jump in, also Marine raised the hand. It's very vivid chat, and I like especially what Mike is writing, that regarding to the Jessica's question it requires the change in organization, because this is new, and just a quick thing why we selected this tooling to train you to use is because by doing it, I mean, these tools are open source, so you can always play around, and you can exactly show to your IT department or to your manager what you need, because we proved that this works pretty well, and it's easy to build things instead of conceptually describing your needs. So you can actually point to the technologies that you've been using in this training and how they operate, and they might make a decision to use the same tools, or they maybe make a decision, hey, actually we want to build our own tooling, but at least we have something to work on. It's much better than having just a blank page, to be honest. And it is a long process, because as I was mentioning 2 days ago, last year we didn't have this full pipeline of connection of the tools, and we actually came to realization how to connect them, so we can provide you like at least this full-fledged experience of going from the control vocabularies all the way to the point where you have a metadata instantiated, machine action, everything in machine actionable form that we can demonstrate and show even to these bigger players on the market like B2Shares and Odin, and who not, to start changing. And we see the change coming, particularly for some of the open source publishing platforms such as Dataverse, which potentially in future will actually make use of all this work. So there could be, a solution that provides you everything that you instantiate a template and make it fully, searchable through the third-party platform, whatsoever. Marine, you raised a hand.
Yes, because maybe I'm also missing some of the steps, but I was just thinking about our researchers, and a lot of them work with Castor, and also because they have to, and they build their codebook or their data dictionary in Castor. And I know you can also add metadata to your variables, but so is it somewhere possible? Because I can imagine that the researcher tells me, well, I have my codebook here, so why should I repeat it somewhere else? So do you know, are there already tools that can link these codebooks to make it
to make you
machine readable?
To make you even happy, Marijn, and you're a lucky one, because if you're using Castor, Castor is building a tool at the moment, which is not part of Castor, but will be provided on top, which will exactly do what you just told us. It's work in progress because they are involved also in the Photon network and the GoFair stuff. And they are building, as it's called, a fair endpoint, and they are doing exactly what you stated. So if you provide in your codebook your proper metadata description or your link to your ontology, then they are already working on the fact towards we are working as well, because we now provide CEDAR templates. And hopefully today we learn some more from Nicola, and next week from Barbara about the variable values and stuff. And all that together is done by Castor, given the input of the data stewards and the, of course, domain experts. And then it translates in exactly the same. So you see a lot of communities or vendors now who believe in FAIR, because that's something which is still ongoing, doing this work. So we should have a talk with Martijn Kersloot, Marijn, locally.
So we are in pretty close contact with Castor and some other options that we have. See, we chose CEDAR for the metadata for machine workshop because it's very easy, or it's easiest in this platform to create your own metadata as you like. And maybe just to just for a nuance on what Jeroen just said, we could think of it in terms of, oh, I have my metadata in one format, and can I convert it to another format? In FAIR, the idea, the philosophy in FAIR is that once you get your data into a FAIR format, a machine actionable format, it should be relatively straightforward then for the machine to just be able to work with it without, in the classic sense, having to write a script, do some kind of conversion, and have it in some other format. If you want it in another format, you can do that. But if it's machine actionable in this format and in this format, from the FAIR point of view, that's okay, we're done. So that's the idea, is that trying to get your data into a controlled vocabulary is in a way enough for FAIR. We can manipulate it later on afterwards if you want to, but the machine should be able to process it just as well, whether it's in JSON LD or some other kind of RDF coming out of Castor.
What I can hear from what Jeroen said about Castor is that actually your work through these workshops that we've been doing since last year influence how Castor will look tomorrow. Yeah. So instead of being a pure consumer, somebody dumps on you something, actually by demonstrating what you need, they see what they need to build, because there are now competing products on the market. CEDAR, which is free, you just go in and use it, and this one where you pay. And actually that's what we are doing, kind of, we are disturbing, but with purpose or not purpose, the market for the FAIR solution, because actually we say, hey, we need these control vocabularies to be as easy accessible and easy to build as they are today. And why should I pay something if I have a free tool that just needs a Google Sheet to fill in, or I just go to CEDAR and make my fields and connect to the bioportal? So then it kind of forces the development of the commercial tooling such as Castor or others. I never used Castor, so I don't know exactly how it operates. But also for me, when I was able to demonstrate this in my own domain, in my case, like I had like at the university an instance of Figshare, and I was directly saying to them, I'm not happy what you offer to me, because I can't modify, I can't come back and improve what I provided, and I'm not allowed levels of configuration that I really want to have, because I can eventually move that instantiating of the templates on the machine level, because that's the ideal world, where if you have an instrument that is measuring something or a model that is simulating something, there is no point that you then manually enter metadata, because they can be immediately captured and shipped and made available, which is like what we can demonstrate through this tooling that we are using. So definitely, I mean, try to collect as many of concerns and feedback, so you know what, when you demand something, what you demand from the tool, like what we heard already. We don't want to fill in a code book every time we fit all the variables from the code book when we are filling in the template. We want this to be inside of the tool directly offered to me, like we have, for example, for the control vocabularies, when we connect Cedar to Bioportal, that we have this simple drop-down menu that we can select quickly instead of writing 4 fields manually and so on. Everything that can make your daily work more efficient, so you offload all the tedious and repetitive work. I mean, if it's repetitive, can be enclosed in the software solution. That's the idea. We are turning everything, we are moving towards being fully machinic in that sense, like that automatization runs and you can focus on more creative work. Should we kickstart it with the day 2?
Yeah, we definitely will. Let's say I already communicated with Jessica. We and also based on the questions Mike and suggestions of Mike, we might take it to the Slack channel. And I asked Jessica if we should have a virtual coffee, but that will be extended to a virtual coffee session with those who have similar questions. Yeah, so I will take it up with Jessica.
Yeah, and
at least for those kind of questions, at least to get them written out, so to say, that we understand them. And whether there will be an answer to all questions, I guess not, but at least let's see how far we can get.
What I really like about this discussion is that I'm convinced that maybe what we've done in the previous workshops and from Tuesday is that we're on the right track, because these are exactly the questions that preoccupy us at Go Fair and the real issues that we've been struggling with for a while, and now they're really becoming practical. So for me, these are great questions and a indication that we're making some progress here.
And to be blunt with all of you, the way how I develop these rapid M4M workshops, they are directed in a way to make you very dangerous, in the sense that you know sufficient so you can ask those tough questions to whoever is trying to sell you a product or offer you a service, because you can demonstrate the full pipeline from going from the control vocabulary all the way to instantiate the metadata template and pinpointing exactly the specs that you need, so nobody can trick you tomorrow. That's like, I'm really trying to learn you to catch the fish, so you're not like enchanted by the beautiful slides that somebody who is selling you a product offers to you, but you can question the value of the product they're trying to sell to you, because you are at the end of one who need to use that product. And now with what we did in the day 1, which I'm going to now recap, and what we're going to do in day 2, you're then like, you went through the full pipeline. So I know that on the day 1, it was sort of like easy and nice with the pictures, and then I put you to the drill of practical implementation of control vocabulary. Some of you felt a little bit of discomfort, which is good, because then you learn new stuff. And I'm just going to show you what we did in the day 1. So in day 1, we started with the template, the Google Sheet template, which where we actually built first version of ZonMV control vocabulary of subjects. As you can see, a number of people that contributed through their ORCID IDs is listed here. From template, we moved to the Git repository, which was fetching this Google Sheet and converting it to the machine actionable form, which we then push this machine actionable form of the control vocabulary to a URI resolver, basically onto stack, making all those terms that you defined on the day one accessible for both humans and machines. And then eventually we configured as well bioportal that index this control vocabulary, which you can use today when we are building and updating generic dataset metadata and template as one of the control vocabularies, one of the drop-down menus in the GDMT template. So this is sort of the pipeline summarizing what has been done on the day one. So going from Google Sheets all the way to bioportal and onto stack, and we build about 16, if I remember correctly, 16 terms that we define. Actually, 15 terms that we define. For some of the terms we have both Dutch and English name for the term, as well Dutch and English definition of the term. So what we're going to do today is to move into the development of machine actionable metadata template and how we are actually making use of the control vocabularies that we built in the day one. And there are many reasons why we were building control vocabularies. One of them, exactly what we were discussing now, avoiding a necessity to every time you need to make an instance of the template, you are filling in as with the free text values of certain fields. But instead of doing that, you have already preset values that you can choose. And ideally, as I was mentioning, as I'm advocating, make a machine to fill in most of the template for you. So you are doing sort of a work of a controller, making sure that everything is in good order and basically signing off saying this is okay. Let's make this metadata available on the web. So as mentioned in the day one, what we are doing and what we are transitioning and from is what is purely understandable by humans, like simple landing pages on the web, into the form which can be understandable by humans and machines. So going from left side of the screen to the right side, so basically enclosing information which were usually provided as a free text inside of the graph representation that can be queried by the machines, but also spin in the way that it's like when you land on the same URL as a human, you get a nice web page, such what I can show you over here. Like, for example, this is the term, and if I use the terms persistent identifier, if I copy it in my browser and if I execute it, I get, of course, this web page. But if machine access, it gets the JSON LD or turtle representation that it can parse and retrieve additional information if needed, if that was the question that we are asking. So going back to the slides. So that's where we want to basically be in the future, that we have all our metadata and control vocabularies in these graph formats, because we want to enable machines to do the tedious and repetitive and not so interesting work for us. So this is how an instance look like in the graphical representation. So what we want, and this comes to one of the questions earlier today about how rich it should be. It's really up to the community to define the richness and what of those fields are really required to be filled in by the community members. So we go from an instance of a template, which is graphically shown here, to actually building the metadata template. That's why you see the colors are now changing to the blue. And what we typically see when we are building metadata templates is that we usually think about it as a web form, and it is at the end of the day a web form, which eventually is translated into graph representation, which you see on the left side of the screen. So we were talking on the day one about property value pairs. Basically, what this field is actually a property. So we have here what I was showing as an example. Template can have field for identifier of a data set, then a title, creator, publication date, license, and so on. So you can add as many fields as you like. And that's all about, like, as referring back to what we were discussing, what community considers rich metadata template. We have some ideas. There's some certain basic fields that every template should have, and then there could be an extensions which are very kind of curated for the community itself. So again, like, I'm constantly repeating this idea of transitioning from human to human and machine readable templates. On the left side is what we typically accustomed for, and it's a lot of work today. You will see is on building first like a human version of the template, and that's how the exercises that you will do today start, and then turning them into the machine actionable version. So basically transitioning from the left to the right side of the screen. So as mentioned earlier, we want to control as much as possible what user can fill in the template. We want to remove as many of the free text inputs as possible, because first, it's easier to fill in the template. If there is drop-down menu that you can select things, it's much easier to be the tools because the things are controlled. So it's like it's really like reducing the space of possibilities, but that's where you need a lot of inputs to build control vocabularies. We do that, but how we are doing this is by basically locking what values can be used in certain fields by forcing that their values can only be sourced or taken from the control vocabularies, such as those we built in the day one. For example, what you can see on the right side of the screen is that we already have a bunch of control vocabularies that we can reuse in our templates. There are lots of control vocabularies which are sort of like generic purpose domain agnostic, such as, for example, licenses. So instead of writing manually the license under which you're licensing your data, you can use, for example, control vocabulary that is provided by spdx.org, which contains a very long list of I think all of the open source licenses which exist out there. Then there are certain fields of template which really requires your inputs, as we discussed in the day one, such as subjects. As we said, like, subjects represents areas, topics, or phenomena that can be investigated by a data that your community is creating, and therefore it cannot be a general purpose control vocabulary that you can use, but you have to build control vocabulary or reuse existing one for your own domain. What I'm showing you here is a control vocabulary that in wind energy community we built, which is called wind energy taxonomy of research topics, that we use to tag our data sets to indicate to people for what kind of purpose the data set can be used. And it is the same thing when it comes to the variables. So that's why they're in different colors, as you can see here. So these are the, actually, as we call it, if you remember the day one, this is the concept schema, so kind of an umbrella URL under which all the terms are located. And the blue one represents this general purpose. As you can see, what we're discussing on the day one, all of those free strings for the field names are replaced by the corresponding so-called RDF properties from a general purpose control vocabularies that exist there. Title and creator, they're sourced from the Dublin core elements, for example, publication date from another one, which will be built for the generic dataset metadata template. Rights are using, again, we are reusing a lot of the Dublin core ontology, which is already there, has been used for many years for this kind of purposes. But that's the idea, is that we start first with the strings, and eventually we start replacing, or actually in Cedar, the process you will see, it's very straightforward. You put first the human readable part, and then eventually you start attaching so-called RDF properties, which are these URLs basically to your fields. So for you, when you're building it, it looks exactly like on the left side of the screen. But what happens in the background when you instantiate or create a template is that the machine adds these machinic aspects to the template automatically for you. So this is the transition that we are going to do today. just repeating, like what we've seen in the practice is that what you typically see is that there is a lot of fields which are general purpose and you can reuse them every time. And what differentiate them, your domain from another domain, is what kind of control vocabulary you attach to that specific field. As I showed to you, like you always have subjects for which the data set can be used for, but what differentiates your community versus, for example, mine, which is wind energy, is the control vocabulary of subject that I attach versus to what you attach to that field. In rare occasion, you might extend the template, adding few extra very specific domain fields. That's why you have this different coloring. But for majority of the fields, you can reuse general purpose vocabulary, such as one that I showed to you for the licenses which are out there, and that's why there is a blue. So blue indicates it's the general purpose control vocabulary and general purpose field that every domain, every scientific domain is using, and then the purple represents domain specific control vocabulary and maybe domain specific field. So that's this coloring that I'm showing you here on this slide. Typically, what you will see, or what you're going to do today, is that if the fields are connected and to some extent, basically they describe a thing in a same thing, we have a tendency to kind of group them into a set of fields which we call elements. So what we do typically, for example, when we are providing an information about the creator of the data set, we group certain fields such as creator email, creator name, creator ID under the element called creator. And in this help us that we can repeat and instantiate that specific element multiple times and provide information. So they are also grouped. So you can see that we are constantly have this graph idea when we are building the template, but also when we instantiate it, because this enables machine to traverse through the graph and find us an information that we want. And it's nice from the organizational point of view, because you're grouping similar fields to the same element, and you can see nicely in then like parts of the template, like a section of the template that you need to instantiate. So you go step by step by step, because you can then ask, for example, researcher to fill in certain parts of the template where the other parts of the templates are filled in by yourself, or machine fills in a good portion of that straight onwards. So how we are building the template, you saw that the control vocabulary we build with RDF, Turtle, and SCOS. Here we use linked data approach as we described yesterday, and we are building this template into a JSON LD form, which is our format. Just to repeat, like for those who were not on the day one, so you can see here linked data builds up on standard web technologies such as HTTP and URI. What is critical about linked data is that if you if you go for linked data approach, is that actually we are enabling machines to automatically read what we are producing. And JSON LD is a lightweight linked data format. It is easy to read by humans. Of course, it can be very long. But it basically builds on already existing JSON format, which basically all of the websites today are using. So everything on the web is more or less based on data stored into JSONs, and there are like these specific databases that host JSON files such as MongoDB, as you can see over here. So JSON LD is ideal. Though I bolded this, is just JSON LD is an ideal data format for programming environments. I'm quite sure that any IT department that you have is capable of working and creating scripts that can make use of or produce JSON LD. So it's a very simple way to interact. So it's not an esoteric format. It's just an extension of a JSON. So it enables this machine actionability, and it's rather straightforward for programmers to make use of it, because they don't see the difference. For them, JSON is still JSON, key value pairs all over the place. So where do we start? Like when we are building this when we are building machine actionable metadata template, we are going to use what we built in one of the previous M4M workshops last year, which is generic dataset metadata template. So we start with that one, and then, as Eric mentioned you yesterday, by modifying it and tuning it for your domain, you're eventually going to land into what he nicely points, specific dataset metadata template, which will be very specific to your domain or for your type of data, by tuning it with and then adapting it with specific control vocabularies that you have built so far. So just to give you an intro, so we built it in 2020 during the Danish M4M workshop. I built it together with John Grable. It is inspired by Dataset and DCAT schema. Why Dataset is because today, if a researcher will do anything with filling in the template, he or she really wants to get something in return, and that is the DOI. So that's why we started with the Dataset as a base schema, and we look at the organization of data sets, as I showed you on day one, which is DCAT, and we fuse these schemas, improve them, extend them, and we try to simplify them as much as possible. Simplified in the sense that we attach a lot of control vocabularies, so you already have values that you can select from. It has a lot of fields, but don't be scared with the number, because only 13 are mandatory, and these 13 mandatory are those which are required by Dataset to make sure that you get a DOI. We have 100 fields which are grouped in. Yes.
Yeah, Nicola, maybe just to mention, coming back to the question on granularity.
Yeah.
One thing we might do as a group is to say, an agreement that we, in the COVID program, that only these 13 fields are required, and everything else is seen as a bonus. And that's one way to kind of, keep it real, take some pressure off of everybody. It's not like we have to have fine-grained descriptions down to every detail. But, that's then something that might come out of the governance workshop is, okay, can we have a kind of a formal agreement, when you use the generic dataset metadata template, how many fields are required?
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's why when we were developing this template, John and I simply decided not to overwhelm people. That we wanted to provide them a possibility to provide extremely rich metadata, but not to force them to fill in 100 fields, because nobody will do that. 13 fields are pretty much like okay, because they are like typical fields that they will anyhow fill in to get the DOI. So I agree I fully agree with you, Eric, and this could be like the richness can be done over a period of time. So improving and seeing what would be nice to have, and what will really required in the long term, particularly considering the potential services that can be built, such as semantic search portal that can make use of the rich metadata to help you navigate and find exactly the data set that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So why I mean, like, we use the Dataset template. The problem with the Dataset that it's not really machine actionable. They have very nice definitions. It's a very good starting point, but unfortunately, many of their control terms and definitions are only provided as a PDF document. So immediately, it's not machine actionable. So a starting point was to move all that information into what I call a GDMT ontology, which has like it's a backend vocabulary which has over 130 RDF properties that I built, and I made close to 1,000 control terms. So to enable that this GDMT is fully machine actionable and easy as possible to fill in both by humans and machines. I'm just going to show you how it looks like. So what you see here on the left side of the screen are typical elements, and within these elements there are fields, and I will navigate them through. I will show you how it looks like. So these elements you typically see inside of, like, if you go and publish your data set on Zenodo or any other platform that make use of Dataset, because you're filling them in and you're providing information to generate DOI. Then we had we extended add extended elements that provide information, potentially going deeper and deeper into the data set, which is what kind of data streams you have inside, which is basically channels that you're recording, if you have like that kind of instrument. Then the source of data. So what actually created data? Is it a machine, human, or a software that you can also pinpoint? Then there's variables that are contained inside of the data set. And the remaining three are talking about spatial temporal coverage that the data set has. Then we have a data distribution extension, which has a number of fields, and that's where you're reporting about file format in which data set is coming, how to access the data set, who is the provider of distribution, and so on. So this part, like, it will represent this organization of the DCAT at the lowest two levels of data catalog information, data set, and distribution.
So Nicola, two questions. The DOI that we're going after here would be a DOI for the metadata or for the data?
Yeah, that's the problem with the data site, is that the data site is extending the schema to because usually when you get the DOI, what you actually get the DOI for is actually metadata, and potentially you can provide an access link to the data set. So so what you, as I said, like that, usually when you go to the platforms, you think that you get the DOI for data set, but actually what you get from data site is that the DOI lands on the landing page of a metadata that describes data.
Which is cool, because that makes our metadata fair.
Yep.
That's principle F1 of the FAIR principles, that you need to have a global, unique, and persistent identifier. And so having a DOI for our metadata is actually a very fair thing to do. And then, yeah, this was my second question, and it goes back to Jessica's question, which is, okay, maybe in this project and future projects, we actually create some machine actionable metadata, but then what, right? Where does this metadata live? And how is it that our metadata is actually going to reference or connect to the data set itself? And this is, I'll go back to the FAIR principles again. This is principle F3, which says that your metadata contain an identifier to the data that it represents. So I think we can tick the box on F3 by using this metadata template. But the question is, like, where will these metadata then, with the DOI for the metadata, it'll resolve to Dataset, or it'll resolve to CDAR?
So I mean, like for time being, I mean, there is no connection directly between Dataset and CDAR, because of it will require a handshake between the CDAR and Dataset. So once you instantiate, say, GDMT, that it like does the magic and creates the DOI, returns the DOI back to the instance of the template, so that's such that the DOI then resolves on this case CDAR. But that's something that can be worked with and built. We've been like trying to get in contact with Dataset to see how to make those things, because I want them for my own for the research group that I belong to, because I want them to fill in template at one place and let the machine do the rest, like generating the DOI and embedding the DOI inside of the instance of the template. And when it comes,
and this is also, we've mentioned the FAIR data point a few times.
yes,
This is also the objective in the COVID-19 program, is that with Health RI, we'll set up FAIR data points that can also kind of serve this function as well.
Yep.
And we'll be initiating those workshops in the rest of June here. So stay tuned. We'll have submissions for that coming up.
I mean, DOI is one of the persistent identifier that you can use to have an identifier to your metadata. Another one is just simply the URL that CDAR is anyhow providing to you to access, because CDAR for any instance of the template creates persistent identifier specific to the CDAR platform itself. So it's just simply like options that a user should have. And coming back to the persistent identifier to the data set, that is inside of the data distribution part of the template. That's where you provide actually ways that you have access to the data set, which ideally should be, again, URLs that are resolvable, so that when you hit them, you get the data set. So how it looks like, I'm just going to show you on a next one. I'm showing you how it looks inside of the CEDAR OpenView. Okay. So these are all these elements that I mentioned to you. And if you go, for example, resource type, this is something that we are going to modify today. Resource type category in our case, because it's about the data set, has a value data set, and then resource type detail is actually further description of that resource that you're describing. So you can specify that the data set is audio, data set is video, and so on. This is something that you are going to do to the exercises. The thing is that what you see here, and when you look at the description of the template, is that whenever you hover over the question mark, you get the further description or definition what this specific field represents. So basically, on the top level, you see elements. If you click here, you see actually the fields that are under that specific element. And then you have, coming back to the data set identifier, here it could be like the DOI that your data set has, or that needs to be created. And then you show and like basically indicate what type of identifier you're using. There are multiple options for the identifier that you can select. Of course, for time being, this is manual. It's not connected to, say, DataSite service that it automatically generates the DOI for you. Because as we discussed earlier today, we had the need to build things to show to these large entities out there what we need to have, and what is our preference, so we can actually make an impact on the market when it comes to the fair data solutions. And similarly, if I go down and traverse the rest of the
Nicola, maybe
yes?
maybe one more comment about the data site identifier fields. So again, this is principle F3. It's this connection between our metadata and the data set that it describes. So that's very cool. Because by the way, this almost never happens at a machine actionable level. So this is a really cool innovation. But it also comes back to a question earlier from this morning. What if you deposit your data in a fairly regular way at some repository? So I have genomics data and it goes to the genomics repository. And I fill out, by the way, metadata at that repository. That repository will almost certainly give you some kind of unique identifier
Indeed.
for your data set. You can put that identifier in this field here.
Yep.
And now you've connected some machine actionable metadata to your data that's in a repository that likely has only human readable metadata at the repository, or not as detailed metadata at the repository. So the CEDAR capability and the idea of a fair data point or the CEDAR repository, these are ways to create machine actionable metadata that the machine can get to and interpret, but you can still reference your data set wherever it may be. Could be on some local server, could be at a repository, but that's okay. We can reference it here.
Yeah, indeed. And that's for example, what I'm doing in my research group where I belong to, is because we are still using our university's platform to generate just the DOI. So we don't deposit data because it doesn't provide services that we want, but I get the DOI and I insert that information over here because I use third-party service to generate that. And as Eric said, like, it doesn't matter that I deposit somewhere else in only human readable form. I transfer those information to machine actionable form by instantiating GDMT and filling in the information. And what it provides this level of information that you can put and kind of fuse together. Coming back to the code books, this is one of the things that you can also like very specifically state inside of the template, is because you can use this related resource field, which actually indicates any information about any other resource that can be of help to understand and reuse the data set. And you can be very specific. Again, you can see that in this template, there is this idea of identifier being repeated over and over again, because you provide related resource identifier, then type of that identifier. Then you have the option to select what kind of category the resource fills in, and then you indicate relation between this external resource versus your data set. You can very nicely build very deep connections between the resources, and that comes to this aspect of reusability inside of the fair, because you're really boosting reuse of data set, because you're trying to relate as much of information to it as possible. So basically, again, increasing the complexity of that graph representation that I showed you earlier today. And as I said, like this, like you can go so deep, and you can elements can have elements, because you want to go deeper and deeper how you're describing parts of metadata that are described in this data set. So it's very deep. I mean, it will take me like a full day just going step by step through the field. But the point is that everything is described. You have a definition of each field, of each element, and you can see how it can be used. So we try to define it as simple and as straightforward as possible. Of course, any question that arise after the workshop, I'm happy to help and answer, because we would like to see the use of this template as much as possible. So that's the template. Quickly browsing through and coming back to this distribution level again, as mentioned, like you will get a DOI for metadata, which will land on the metadata, and then that metadata about data sets should have an identifier of a data itself, and that's where it happens in the distribution level. And you can have multiple distribution of the same data set, because the data set you can provide in, say, Excel sheet or RDF or on a MySQL database or as a binary file, but it's the same data that you're providing, but just in different file formats. And that's where you can describe all of them through this element called distribution, and which has to have identifier, again identifier, the type of identifier, in what format is it coming, what is the media type, distribution size, and then how you access, or what are the access protocols to access the data. Maybe it's not accessible. Maybe you just say simply it's like it's not accessible. That's it. There is a distribution, but I'm not giving it to anybody. So, but you can know that there is at least metadata that is accessible for the rest of the world. And once you instantiate the template, you have this, because we see here, this is human readable format, but there is also this JSON representation, which of the whole template that machine can infer information from and parse and use further on. So these are like blunt, quickly like showing through what are the parts of the template.
And maybe one other comment, yes, then, Nicola, what's really worth pointing out here, what's really cool about this is that Nicola has gone through the trouble to define like these generic elements that are relevant for just about any data set. So anything that you are willing to call a data set, you know, these fields are pretty relevant. And so that's a pretty cool comprehensive feature of this. If you fill out this template, you've really covered up most of the bases. Another way of saying this, you know, if we had a workshop where we all tried to create a generic metadata for data set, I think it would be hard for us to think of additional fields here. You know, there's not that many things you need to know in order to really describe the generic properties of a data set really well. And I think Nicola and John have done a great job kind of encapsulating that, or, you know, they've given us a great version of this. So this template is quite powerful, and when customized for your own vocabularies, you know, your own subject fields, it's a pretty powerful combination.
Okay, so just to indicate where are those 30 mandatory fields located inside of the template itself. So basically, these are the fields, these are the elements which contain those 13 fields, but they're marked with this blue color. It's resource type that you need to state that you're defining, which is it's already pre-locked. So it's already pre-filled for you because it comes with the default value. Then dataset identifier, title, description of dataset, who created it, who published it, and then you're required to state the publication date. So these are the typical things that you are required to provide when you're filling in when you're submitting data to say Zenode or B2Share, whatever. Of course, dataset identifier is something that is automatically fetched from the data site by connecting for example, Zenode with data site and so on. So these are where those mandatory fields are located that you must fill in because then they will define that you have the possibility to generate DOI down the line. But what is crucial for us today during the workshop is that to turn this generic data set metadata template into the specific template to your domain, a starting point is to modify certain elements, specifically certain fields of those elements, to source its values from the control vocabularies that you already built and that you can build and improve in the future. These elements are shown here in green. You already did with Barbara during the project content M4Ms. You created a very nice control vocabulary and you indicated that you want to be very specific what type of data set are you making metadata for. So we are going to modify element called resource type, and all of the exercises today are built around the modification of that element. Further on, after the workshop, you can repeat exactly the same exercises, but to modify the element subjects and keywords with the control vocabulary that you start building on day one of the Rapid M4M workshops. And then down the line, once you go to the workshop with Barbara, then she'll show you a I-adopt approach in building the control vocabulary of variables. You can then further on modify the GDMT with specifically the element of variables such that you can source the control vocabulary that you're going to build of variable for zone and V. So this is what we are going. Our focus today is modifying one of those elements, and you will see through the exercise exactly the same steps you're going to repeat for other elements to modify further. And these exercises are geared in a way so you can learn actually how you can then build and modify a template or build your own from scratch, because it goes you through this process of making a template, building a template block by block, and basically moving from what is purely human readable finally to the machine actionable, and then at the end of the day attaching the control vocabulary such that you restrict the values that those fields of your template can actually take into. So we added GDMT, of course, on Cedar Workbench. Hopefully everybody made the Cedar account, so you are able to actually do these exercises that I will show you very soon. I just quickly, like for those that just a quick recap about Cedar. So this is sort of a workflow for metadata authoring a submission that can be done with Cedar. So with the Cedar, you can first explore metadata, you can design the templates, you can fill in the templates, and basically you can submit the metadata. And because Cedar has this very nice API, those instances of templates can eventually land into your own, say, institutional databases, or what we saw last year, that we can make a connection between Cedar and Health Arise, so you can actually explore those semantic artifacts in a nice fashion to the faceted search. So it's pretty powerful tool that we have for making machine actionable metadata template, making instances and showing exactly what machine actionability really means in a rather simple way, by clicking and not knowing exactly the background technologies that are making turning those artifacts that we're building to be fully machine actionable. So CIDR artifacts, as you probably know, the basic artifact is a field. It's a metadata template. Your build contains fields, and fields such as I was showed to you earlier, like title, descriptions, publication date. Often we group fields into elements such as creator. So creator field or element will contain fields such as creator name, creator email, creator affiliation, and so on. And finally, we join and fuse and put those fields and elements inside of the template. So that's the third CIDR artifact. And then we instantiate the template, thus making a metadata. So these are these four basic building blocks that we are using when we are making machine actionable metadata in CIDR. This is the process, just repeating again, we are creating the fields. Often we join those fields into an elements, and then we add elements and fields to the template. The template itself conforms to the JSON schema, because then it can be checked. And then eventually when you make an instance of the template, the metadata is actually inside of the JSON LD format. Of course, the template is as well in JSON LD format, but it cohorts to the JSON schema, so you can do all kinds of checks in the background of the backend of the web app, which represents the CIDR. So what we are doing is this is sort of a CIDR only workflow that you can see here. So when we design the template, we have this option of importing the control vocabularies or fields through connection with BioPortal. That's why we are actually indexing all our control vocabularies in BioPortal, so we can make use of them in CIDR. And finally, we are from the template creation, go to metadata editing, and finally submission, where we instantiate the template and make metadata. So I'm stop at the exercises. I think it's a good time for questions and to have a break, because we've been interacting for quite some time before we enter the exercises. Questions? I can see there's a lot of chat happening, much more than we had in day one, which is very good. I don't see any raised hands, or if anybody has a question, please feel free to unmute and ask. If not, then we can have a let's say 10-minute break, and then we can start with the first exercise.
Nicola, there is a question by Bruna in the chat,
yes,
which is relevant. The last one.
I can read then.
Yes, please.
Okay, so if I remember correctly, if you are at the template link, there is a little 3 dots menu on the side, and then you can click there, and then you see create. If you click on create, the actual form with the tag icon opens, and you can fill out your metadata. How do you choose where that lives after that? So where do you save that form that you filled with your own metadata?
So for the time being, like as you will see in the exercise that we are going to do, so the instance of that template will be saved at the same location where the template is located. So that's what happens. And then what we did in the previous workshop is that CIDR team built a script on their side that was able to fetch the instances that all of you filled in about project admin and project content template and move them to the joint or shared folder for the zone NB. So that kind of magic happens in the background, but that is like made by CIDR team.
Okay.
But for the time being today, all of the instances that you're going to make are going to live in your own folder, because that's how we build, and then we will discuss in the governance workshop what to do, how to deal for the next steps. Because unlike project content and project admin workshops, here you actually are the one who are sort of not in charge, but basically doing the exercises, doing the modifications, building the template. Before that was done by Barbara, John, and Yaron and myself. Other questions? See. If no questions, let's have a 10-minute break. Maybe Eric, you can share that coffee cup screen. So
Consider it
know.
done, Nicola. Absolutely. Queuing up. So should we go to 10:10?
Let's round it 10:10. Indeed. Then we start with the exercises.
All right, great. Thanks, everyone.
I hope that everybody's back from a coffee break, so we can start with the exercises. But before, I'm just going to quickly show you what you're going to do and how you're going to interact. So we have in total 8 exercises, and basically it's like a pipeline. It represents the pipeline on building machine actionable metadata template, and finally making an instance of it. So each exercise comes with like such as the slide shows here, with the specific steps that you need to execute in order to wrap up the exercise. A good thing is that you also have a video instruction, so you can see where actually you should click and what you should do to help you do this exercise much more efficient. So I'm just going to post a link, YouTube link to that contains the video instructions. There is no sound. There is only basically video recording of my screen. I'm just going to show you how to find the instructions that you see here in the slide. They're also inside of the YouTube video. There is a single YouTube video containing the solution for all the exercises. So if you go to that YouTube link, and there is this, you probably first time you land on that YouTube link, you will see just this kind of information. So under the video description, just click show more. And here you will see again the same information that you will see on my slides, but within the video description. And you can quickly jump to different parts of the video by clicking on the timeline. So if I click, for example, 0:41, it will move me to the exercise number 2. You see the title of the exercise here, and you see actually the steps that you're going to do, and that you will see me executing those in the video recording of the screen. So you can see clearly where I clicked and what I did. So you're going to basically, anytime you get confused what you need to do, you can always watch the video. So let's try to have ideally 10 minutes per exercise for you to do, and then we'll see how far we go. So we have, I think, enough of time. I did actually take into account like extra half an hour if things don't go as smooth as possible. So I'm now going back to the slides, but you have a YouTube video in the chat. And as I said, click show more, and then look at the descriptions here or on my screen, and try to replicate what I'm doing. And then hopefully at the end of the day, we were going to make an instance of now specific dataset metadata template. So you went through the whole procedure of building the template, or in this case, modifying it and making an instance, thus creating the metadata. So this is exercise 1. As it says here, is what you're going to do. You're going to create your own copy of the template. So you're supposed to see it. I can see that Rita is writing that she is not able to see it, but I will try to log in. But for everybody else, just follow the exercise that you see on the screen and use the YouTube video to start doing the exercise if you need any help when it comes to the how to do it and where to click and then how to create the copy of this first exercise. I'm just going to check if everything works to see if what Rita is reporting is something with Cedar. I will share my screen in a second. So I can show what I have. Just a sec, just to share my screen for and then show you the first exercise. It should work. So if I now log in with my GitHub account instead, this one's already taken. If I go with the Google account, I'll use this one. So this one doesn't have anything. So if I search for the template, right here, GDMT, there is this, you're supposed to see either this way, or if you click over here, it will give you the.
I don't see it myself. I just
No?
I just see the folder, but maybe
Can you share the
others do.
screen?
Sorry?
Can you share the screen so we can see what's
Yeah, but
just...
maybe I'm the only one that has the same problem.
Hmm.
Well, but you need to stop sharing.
Yes,
Okay, let me try again.
that is so GDMT,
Oh.
not P.
That
Yeah.
was, there you go, template.
Great, Rita.
There you
Then
go.
okay, Rita, do the
Stupidity.
first exercise. Rita, that's a good thing. Now you're sharing the screen. Let's do the first exercise. So make a copy of that one. So you go on the 3 dots, copy to, and select
I'll
put it
check.
there. It's okay. You can modify the name.
Yeah, and I'll try. I'll copy it to copy.
Now click workspace.
And this one, I'll rename it now already.
Yeah, to GDMT.
That's template. I don't know why I was being.
It's okay. It's good. I mean, that's what we think. Nice. You've done the first exercise. So now what I ask as well in the first exercise is to create one more folder there. Call it basic assets. So folder. Great. Great. Okay, Rita, you completed exercise 1.
Yay!
Very good. Very good.
If you want, you can use me as a guinea pig. But
Sure, sure. That would be good. Actually, we can use you. Nice. So I will send the link. Everybody is supposed to have a link to the PDF of my talk, but I'm just going to post it again in the chat. Because then we will just simply, everybody will scroll to the exercise 2. Maybe Rita, you can pull up the PDF that I shared so we can go from. Really? I think I made this available to everybody. That is so strange. Slides.
there you go. Renata has the same problem, and
Just a sec. It was supposed to be shared with everybody. Share. Change. Okay. Try again.
at least the folder.
Yes, and now go to the 0201. And scroll all the way to the exercise 1, because that's what we are doing currently for a few more minutes. Yeah. Awesome, thanks. Does anybody has a trouble to do the exercise 1? Feel free to ask questions. Don't be shy.
And Nicola, just so you know, I started the timer and
Yes.
we are only through the first 5 minutes of exercise 1.
Oh, nice. Okay. Okay. So we are on time.
So yeah, we're not pushed for time at all here.
Okay, great. So whoever completed exercise 1, it would be good that just to drop a line in the chat. So Rita did it, so that's good. Now one more. Okay, great. Oh, fantastic. So we are getting people going through the first exercise. Renata says I have everything double now. Not bad. Redundancy is not a bad. It's making things more robust. So just watch out when you start editing which of those templates you're going to edit. So.
Or one could be deleted, I guess.
Yeah, but how is that possible? I only hit create new, and I said do the folder, the GMT, and that was the 10.
Do you want to share? You would want to share the screen, Rita? If you can, just for the time being, yes. Renata, please share the screen so we can see what's going on.
Share, yeah.
Share the screen so we can see.
Can you see my screen?
That is strange because it's
No,
exactly
you looked for GDMT. You're still looking for GDMT.
Ah, that's right. Yeah. So you're still in the search results. That's right. Hey, now it's good.
Ah, okay, great.
Okay. No, all fine. Listen, that's coming back from the day one, we need to experience discomfort to learn how to operate with the platform, and now we are learning that's how it is. So yeah.
Okay, thanks. How do I stop sharing here?
Yeah, and now Rita, take over again. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 10 people completed the exercise 1. How much time we still have, Eric?
Yeah, 2 minutes and 50 seconds.
Okay.
You want me to share Cedar or the slides?
We can yeah, for time being, like look at the slides, and then we will switch to the Cedar because of the second exercise.
But I have now a question. When I follow your instruction, I'm now searching for DMT, so I see everything double. So
yes.
I have the folder and the file 2 times, and now I'm supposed to copy. But which file do I choose? I have one that's created on the 4th of October, or
yeah, but there is the latest one that you created as your own copy. So if you
okay,
yeah, so if you click on workspace, you see that there is click workspace, and then go to your GDMT folder,
and that's the one I need to copy.
That's right. So that no, you don't need to copy. You copied that. That's what you just created in this exercise.
Yeah.
So that's your own copy, as Rita is showing here. That's your own personal copy of a generic dataset template that you're going to modify. Because the other one you cannot, because it only it's has only read rights. You don't have write rights. But here you have read and write access to the file that you created. As you can see, like Rita just selected now her own copy, and you can clearly see what are the permissions that she has with that file. She can read, write, and she's the owner. And if you click the same thing for you and click on this icon on the above, it will give you this extra information that you see details.
This is, and if you look for GDMT and you do the same, then you can see which one belongs to whom if you click on them.
That's right.
So I've got one for Nick.
Because CDAR keeps metadata about metadata.
Yes, that's right. So it's like almost like those Russian dolls, one in another and another and another. It's like
in one person's data could be another person's metadata.
That's right.
Okay, that was 10 minutes, Nicola.
Okay, Rita, if you can just quickly go to the exercise 2 on the slides. So now exercise 2 is about creating a field called resource type category. It has only 6 steps. And again, there is a video walkthrough. You use that same YouTube video and look for the instructions. So Rita, please start doing the exercise.
Just this is within basic assets, right?
That's right. That's right. So you're supposed to finish your exercise 1 inside of the basic asset folder. And in that basic asset folder, you start creating resource type field.
I'm going to do something here.
Yeah, that's nice. Very good. This is split screen.
Remove this, and where was I?
One more.
Sorry, something.
Yeah, that's right. Just go scroll it up.
Oh, I'm going precisely 20, just all the way down.
Great.
And resource type category. Yeah, like this, right? I'll wait to press on save.
Feel free. It's correct. So that's.
I'll wait maybe.
Yeah, wait for a little bit. I can see that Marine done exercise 2, Linda as well. Okay. Good. Nick as well. Petra done as well. Karine done as well. Bruna.
And I'll save. Okay. Is this normal that up here there's nothing appeared?
It should be. If you click click on the under name, click somewhere.
Oh, okay. It's just white on white.
Yeah. It was like a pre-selected.
Yeah.
And I think when you click create a field, it immediately kind of selects that all the text that is there.
Yeah.
How are we with time, Eric? I think we
are 5 minutes 48 seconds.
Oh, we are this isn't so long one, but I try to cut them so they are not as challenging. It will become soon, a little bit. It builds up, it builds up.
I have a typo. How do I correct the typo?
Rita, if you can click next, you see, Renata, look at what Rita is going to do. Rita, go with the mouse under just above resource type category and double click, and you just see, yeah.
Okay.
Then you correct and you save field.
Yep.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Can we just continue with the next exercises? Is that okay? I already did the next one, but not sure if we have to discuss something.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, if you're fast, keep on going. But there are people who need extra time, so that's why I wanted to have like 10 minutes per exercise. Marguerite has a trouble with doing the exercise one. Can Rita, can she just quickly share the screen so we can try to see what's going on and help her? Marguerite, feel free to share the screen so we can see. Okay, you searched if you click workspace, you can see what you have in workspace. Can you again erase the search query? Just click on the X.
You see, when I open the GDMT,
yeah, you cannot copy. No,
I
because
cannot copy.
no, because it's like if you press workspace.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, now go to search.
Okay.
And write a GDMT. Let's see what it will show to you.
Yes, that's what I did all the time.
Oh my God, why do you see?
You see?
Oh, that is strange because yeah, try to log out and log in again. Log out from Cedar. That is funny.
Okay.
Okay, try again, GDMT. No, this is, and if you open it, can you open it? You can see only that folder.
Yeah.
No,
Get
and
the
then,
basic assets.
and if you go there, I mean, you don't see anything, of course. Like if you open it, you can double click here or open.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so strange.
But as I said, I don't want to take time with the other people, but I was curious to
Yeah, this
do the
happens.
exercise myself.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
reset all. No, Margreet, click on reset all on the left.
you know what it is. I know what it is. Yeah, that's right. Reset all. That's right. Good, very good, Rita.
Yeah,
Go
when
to
in
under
doubt, in
filter.
Cedar,
Filter.
What?
reset all on the
What's-
left.
Ja, wat moet ik doen?
Filter.
Reset all. Op reset, net daaronder.
Hier.
Rechts daarvan zie je reset,
Reset
all.
all.
Net,
Reset all.
Now
Okay.
Try again. Write GDMT in
Okay.
the search. Yes.
Aha.
So what happened? Just for if anybody has the same issue. So what happens is that in case of Margreet, she filtered what kind of Cedar artifact should be shown to her, and what she selected was that she should be able only to see folder and only folders that exist. So that's why you are not able to see anything else. Okay.
Yeah.
maybe
Good.
just something, because that's something I've seen with Cedar, is once you click on a filter somehow, that
Saves.
is kept somehow in the system, and everything you see from there on eventually returns to a filter. So in Cedar, for me, when in doubt, press reset all.
That's
I
right.
don't know
That's
if
right.
others have the same problem.
Okay.
If
So
only,
I
if
just took.
only all problems had a reset all option.
It used to be called Control-Alt-Delete, right?
Yeah. And
And
now I rename it. Yeah.
no, because what you did, yeah, because I made you. That's right. You can do it that way. Yes.
Because otherwise I will spoil somebody else's GDMP.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Okay, I will continue. Thank you.
Just so we can stop sharing screens so Rita can start doing the exercise 3. Rita, well spotted, because I will miss that one completely. Margaret, yes, if you can just stop sharing the screen so Rita can share the screen. Great, thanks. So let's do the exercise 3. So now you're going to add the control vocabulary that you already built in the previous workshop with Barbara this time.
Shall I just start?
Yes.
Click values and then add. Click the cog icon. It's the little wheel.
Feel free to click, doesn't matter, it will just spin that trying to search.
I'm just trying to do it slowly. Select the search for an ontology in BioPortal. The second one. Yeah. And in the search and FDC. GDMT. And enter. There it is. Select it. Classes, where are classes? Select resource by resource type category, yes, of course.
Can I ask a very basic question?
Sure, Maureen, go for it.
Because the exercises are not that difficult for me, but if I'm honest, I'm not really sure what I'm doing.
Yeah, sure. So
because I see everything I'm doing, but what am I actually adding here? That's not very clear to me.
Yeah, sure. So what we're doing is that in order to, you're modifying that GDMT template. So what we are modifying, we're modifying one of the elements for which we have a specific control vocabularies that have been built in the previous workshops. So basically, we are moving from GDMT to be turning it to specific zone NV generic dataset metadata template. So we need to do these kind of steps, which are now provided to you as an exercises. And you start by building a field that you're going to modify to put the specific control vocabulary. You're going to add RDF property, and finally you will remove towards the end of the exercise this generic element for resource with the specific element that you just tuned for the zone V.
Because in the end, you created the templates which you can actually fill in.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Because I'm thinking maybe that's at the next step, because I'm like, okay, I'm clicking on everything, but what am I adding? I can't see it.
No, you will see, because what you're doing, you're building a template. So it's like you're not still instantiated. You're building those fields and then grouping them into elements, and finally they go to the template. So we go from a small Russian doll into the bigger one, and finally bigger one, and then we are going to paint that doll so it becomes ready to be spin out on the and accessible by everybody. So you're modifying, you're building a template.
Yeah.
So this is the process you will do. Think about, like, I have like in that template 100 fields, so you will do this 100 times. So now you're not just doing for fraction of the whole template, but it is the process that you're learning of building the template and eventually instantiating. So these are all the steps that you will do anyhow. That does help.
Thanks.
Hey, you're welcome. So Rita, keep on going.
Okay, so where was I?
And maybe Nicola, just to mention too, everybody will be creating data sets throughout the course of the COVID program, right?
Yes.
Another 2 years on the project. So every time they create a new data set, they could come back and create customized metadata for that.
They can, or ideally should have one template, but they have this possibility, exactly repeating these exercises again, the steps, if they need to modify to be specific.
Good.
Go to options. I've added
Great.
the resource type category. Now I'm going to options. And enter default value to dataset. Right?
Correct.
Now save field. Okay, it has been saved. We'll go back to assets folder, or do you want me to stay here to show anything? I'll just stay here for now.
Can I ask a question in the meanwhile?
Absolutely.
I think I've done all the steps in exercise 3, but then for me it shows FTC GDMT properties and not classes. So I must have done something wrong.
If you want, Rita, if you can stop sharing the screen, so Fieke can share the screen so we can see what's going on.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not. Yeah. Hopefully, I'm sharing the correct one, because it's difficult for me to see what I'm sharing. Yeah.
We don't see.
Oh, sorry. I need to adapt the system preferences, so that will take a while.
But you're supposed to be able to see classes and exactly what Rita was showing. But you said that you can see only properties. That is.
Yeah, I didn't attend the first session yesterday, so maybe, or what was it?
No, it's fine. It doesn't matter.
Be an issue. Okay.
No, it's not. This is really like they can be almost a separate workshops, and they are, provided in that way.
Sorry, still adapting my. Oh, I have to leave to be able to share my screen.
Okay.
So maybe, I'll just.
Listen, no worries. There will be time that we can, because in the exercise 4 you will redo the same thing but for another field. So we'll repeat these steps again, but put another control vocabulary. So Rita, if we can, share the screen while Fieke is like signing off and on. How are we time, Eric?
Yeah, 2:40, 2 minutes, 40 seconds.
Okay.
So this is how it should look like, right? So you've
That's
got
right. That's right.
information
Because
and the value underneath.
I can't find dataset.
do you
in the
want to share the
drop-down
screen
menu.
so we can you can do the
Let me stop. Let me stop.
Corinne, you go for it.
Yes, one moment, please. Okay. Move to. So it's here, enter default. variable.
Because you selected the wrong vocabulary. Go back to values. You selected another class.
Okay.
So you selected the whole ontology. So click X, yes.
Okay.
Then press add. Then click under the start this cog button. That's right. Select search ontology bioportal. Click on this, just one click on that one. Yes.
This one.
Yeah. Then now scroll down, and you see this resource type category. You see that on the under the FDCG DMT classes, there is above relation type. You have this resource type category. Click on that one.
This one. This one.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Click, and now press add. Very good. Now go back to options. And there you should have a, why is that? Wait.
Oh, data. Data is now.
No,
in.
but it's like,
Dataset.
it seems that it's selecting you the entire, it selects you the entire ontology instead of a specific class. Can you go back to values?
Okay.
This is interesting.
And now I have to delete this one again.
Resource type. Can you resource type category? Can you click save field? Click save field for a moment, and then click again next to A. This just to open up. You see this under? Yes, that's right. So double click. If you go options, click options again. This is strange. This is data set. Yes,
it was
select the
data
data
set.
set.
It wasn't it?
Yeah, now click on that one, and then save field. You're not supposed to see you because this is interesting. Consider that it shows you every single term for the control vocabulary, but supposed to give you only terms from this specific class.
Okay.
But that's okay. It should work now.
So maybe I did something wrong earlier.
Yeah, probably something that kind of saved. Maybe it's saved in your browser. Maybe if you, but now we set everything correctly. If you can stop sharing screen, so we can. Fieke, maybe you want to share the screen. Yeah, you're welcome.
My problem has been solved.
You solved it. Okay, great.
Yeah, I did just repeated all the steps, and now I came into the right screen.
Nice. Thanks. Okay. Now we can do the exercise 4.
In the exercise 3, I had to go back to the basic assets folder. That's where we start next exercise, right?
That's right.
Click new. Select field. Enter the field name. I will save it already. And has been created. Still open again.
If you have finished the exercise 4, just drop a line in a chat so we know that how far we are with everybody, so we can then potentially move to exercise 5. So far. 8 people completed the exercise 4. how you're doing with time, Eric? Maybe let's go now to exercise 5.
You got 3 minutes, Nicola.
I think we can, quite a lot of people actually done, so maybe we can, yeah.
Okay, shall I?
Yeah, you go for it.
Okay, click on values, click add, cog, search for an ontology. So the middle option, and then press zone MV. Enter, and top one.
That's right.
Select data, and then press add. Yes. And save.
So this specific control vocabulary you built with Barbara in the previous workshop. So now we are reusing it because now what we are doing now is that we are specifying what values this field can have, and these are the values that you created. So they're very specific to Zone NV, Zone NV group. Let's put in that way, project.
Nicola, you've got a question in the chat.
I think the resource type category is say in the basic form. Is there a way to remove it? Maybe. Okay. Can you share the screen so we can help you? I don't know if I'm pronouncing your show. Huizen. I don't know how. Sorry if I don't pronounce the name correctly.
Okay.
You can share the screen so we can see what's going on.
Yeah.
Oh, you're in a nice work environment.
Yeah, I am.
We envy you.
Make sure the birds are quiet.
Yeah. Or I asked them to do the exercise as well. So.
I cannot find my screen. I have a lot open. This one. You see it now?
Yeah. So, so you have resource type category. So what you're saying, it's not in the basic asset folder, right?
Yeah.
So just click on the 3 dots.
Oh, copy to,
Move to.
move to, of course.
And just move.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Again, if you've done the exercise, just report in a chat so we don't so we have more time for discussion after all the exercises. So okay, Linda done all exercises. Very good. Linda, then have a coffee and enjoy the rest until we get to the discussions. Wendy as well did all the exercises. Nice. But others don't feel pressure. We do it slowly. The point is that we all learn how to do this, so no need to rush.
Yeah, we still got 5 minutes on this one. Okay, Nicola, that was 10 minutes.
Great, great, fantastic. Now we are moving to the exercise 6, which is to create an element. So now we are moving from fields. We are going to combine fields into an element.
I'm now going back to the assets folder, as it was in the last one. With new. Select an element. Right, 3. Together. In the description. Where did I put my glasses? I can't read anymore. Of the
CDAR has an effect on people.
yeah, it's only since I work with CEDA that I need resource being okay. Magnifying glass. So this here.
Correct.
Search for the fields we previously created. This one, and press select. And then
again.
Twice. Okay.
That's right. You're repeating the same procedure for the second.
Type detail, select. So we've got now both of them here before we save. And now we save.
Correct.
Okay. So you might need to change the time link in the YouTube, Nicola, right? According to Marijn's.
Update GDNT with domain specific resource type element is not correct. It jumps to oh, okay, sure. Thanks for spotting that.
And it's the one in YouTube. So I followed
Yes.
the steps in YouTube, and when I clicked on that one, it just went to the end of the video. And at first I was confused, and then I saw the time was at 8 minutes. And then the last exercise is somewhere at 7.5 minutes. So that's probably the problem then.
It's a strange, because actually I did corrected that, because I spotted like a week or so ago when I was building this, but for some reason it didn't say it. But thank you. I will then re-edit it so it doesn't jump. I will find the right time. Thank you.
But it was helpful to have the YouTube demonstration, because I used both.
I'm happy to hear that. And,
yeah.
and as you know, the YouTube video will be there afterwards, so you can do it, because as I said, I really want everybody to learn this, so you don't need me. At the end of today, you will say goodbye, Nicola. We don't need you anymore. We know how to do this, and we have YouTube video, and I'm happy that I hope that you reach that level that you don't need me, because then I succeeded in transferring the knowledge. So I will edit now the video, but I'm happy to hear that you find this very useful.
Yes, well, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, a couple minutes, Nicola.
Great. I'm editing the timelines on the video, so
Yeah, okay.
so give a heads up to Rita, so she can start the exercise 7, if I'm right. It's the next one.
Yeah. I still haven't shown it here.
Sure. So I'm just trying to fix this that Marine indicated.
Nick is done with everything. Or maybe just let me know if there's people that still haven't finished.
Yeah, you're moving to 7, is that right, Rita?
Yep.
Yeah.
Fik is on 9.
Okay. Yeah, so that's it, Rita. I think you're ready for
Yeah,
that.
shall I start? Okay. So in this one, I didn't have to go back. I had to stay on the element. And now I need to click on resource type category. And then that field is required. Yes. So this is required, and then yes, I imagine it's not all the details in the over a triangle icon. Triangle icon. Is it this triangle icon?
No,
that
it's that one. Yeah.
That one. Okay. So maybe this is something might need to be.
So hover over a triangle icon, and then it should appear this text. There are 2 of them. So if you go there, it says add property. So it's a different different information you get. So that's why there is a video as well.
Okay, click on the clog. Search a property in BioPortal, so you keep the top one. And here we write type. Now in the add ontologies bar, write DCT. Okay, and select DC times DCT. Okay, list of resulting properties. Select the property type which contains the definition. So the nature of or genre of the resource.
That's correct.
And then press OK. Am I going too quick this time?
Yes.
Am I going too quick?
And let's see what people say. Yeah, feel free to
continue.
to tell us in chat if Rita is going too fast now.
Yes, this one was a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, we still got 7 minutes here.
Yeah. I'll just
maybe Rita repeat the whole thing again. Just don't say it, but press X.
Okay.
And, yeah.
So I hovered. There's 2 triangles. There's this one and there's this one. And this one, there's nothing appearing as you hover through it. So you need to click this one. Then you click the clock icon and make sure that you've got the top one, search for a property in BioPortal. Here you need to type, was already there. And under add ontologies, look for DCT. Select the second one, DC terms DCT. And then select the one that has a given definition. Okay. Okay, if everything is okay, then I'll just press OK now because there's still a couple of steps to do. Step 8 is press OK and then change enter field name from type to resource type category. And this is because we search for type in the other screen, right? That's why it was called type. Oh no. Yeah. Okay. So, right. So it's required. It's got the property, and I can say.
It's a very good question that Petra asked. That's something that I've been complaining to John and Cedar team, because for me, it made more sense that we added this RDF property when we were building the field. But actually you cannot do that. If you try to do that on the field level, it simply doesn't say RDF property. It's simply that's how Cedar is built. They have their reasons why the initial architect of Cedar wanted that you can only attach RDF property to a field when you get to the element level, and you will see that we will repeat the same thing. So you cannot attach RDF property to element on the element level, but you can only attach it when we get to the template level. So it's intrinsic way how Cedar operates and how their data model is built.
It's funny now, if you hover through the triangle, you've got now the...
Correct. Yeah, you can see now that the property attached. So
yeah.
In this exercise, what we did here is that we made that the field is now machine actionable while editing it inside of the element, because we added that RDF property, which corresponds to the Dublin core terms via property name type. Petra, I'll report back to John because we'll see him later today, Eric and me over Zoom. So we'll say that it makes more sense that they made this functionality on the field level.
And if we don't get it, we're going to Castor.
That's right. That's right. That's the way. Yeah. Customer is always right. So.
But really, that's a little bit, we in the M4Ms, we've adopted the CDAR BioPortal framework. We could have gone with another, application. And I would like to say, in GoFair, we are pretty agnostic to the vendor. It's not that we want to necessarily promote one vendor over the other, but this is what the great thing is about FAIR, is that so long as your platform is creating some FAIR output, then it's good to go. And in principle, you would have an option to go with lots of different vendors out there, lots of different applications, so long as they are creating FAIR outputs. But CDAR is a pretty amazing tool. Two minutes to go.
And exercise 8 is exactly the same like exercise 7, but for a resource type detail field.
Tell me when you want to go.
Let's wait till the time runs up.
2 minutes, you said?
Now it's a minute or so, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, there's so yeah, just under a minute now.
Okay. So this is the same. I will maybe start.
Yeah, you go for it. Yes.
Yeah.
So you don't need to double click, by the way. It opens by itself.
Okay.
And then press required. Yes. This one is still not linked. The property. Search for property in BioPortal. Again, here is the same type. And instead of DCT, we have DC, right? And in the descent, select DC. Dublin core? I don't know, I can't DC.
That's correct, Dublin core.
Maybe that could also be added to the notes.
Yes. I'll correct is that it should write Dublin core.
Yep. And then select resource type. So I'll do this again before saving. I've set required. I hover over this. I press the wheel, search for BioPortal, type DC, and select Dublin core. Select the resource type that is available. And then press OK. And again here, this one is now connected. If I press this again, I can edit it, by the way.
Yes, yes, you can.
And can it also be deleted or not? If you wanted, if we
Yeah,
made a
good
mistake.
point. So if you select OK, press the. It's interesting. I don't see a possibility to remove it once you add. No, that's
something to add to the list.
Yeah, to add to the list, to say to John that it would be good if people want to remove RDF property, not to have RDF property attached to the element.
Am I allowed to take a 1 minute break to do something?
Sure, sure, go
that,
for it.
as we say in Portugal, no one else can do for me.
Yeah, I'm going to quickly to grab a coffee myself. Eric, how are you doing the time?
We got 6 minutes and 40 seconds.
So I'm around. I'm just like, thankfully, don't need to walk away that far. So I will hear you if you have questions. So
give me a coffee too.
Yeah, I'm bringing one.
Go, thanks.
Digital, yeah.
Okay.
Marine, you can reuse both elements and fields. It's really no problem at all. So Marine asked if people can see in the chat, do I understand correctly that you can reuse elements for different templates, but not individual fields? These fields always have to be added to the element? No, this is just simply nicer from the organizational. One thing is like, it's nice to organize it into elements. Then for sometimes you are forced to put fields into elements, especially if you want to provide information jointly. Like, for example, if you want to report about a creator and you have multiple creators and you want for those creators to report their name, email address, phone number. So simply they need to be, all those fields, they need to be in one element that can be repeated multiple times when you are instantiating the metadata template. And what we did here, you just made a copy of a GDMT template. You can, of course, find all those elements and fields that I made to make the template. So you can also reuse those. We're just like working now on the template directly. So for you to know that you have that possibility as well, because we share lots of the work that we've done so far with the templates that we build in the workshops. They're freely shared within the CEDAR. So you can always make a copy of them and make your own modifications if needed. So you don't need to start from the ground zero.
But then how do you find what you need? Because now you helped us, you walked us through the steps.
Yes.
And we found actually what we wanted to add to the template. But then let's say I have to build a new one or find a template. I'm still feeling a bit lost if I look around and say, where do I find the right things? Where do I find what I need? And what do I need? Maybe that's also.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I know what you mean. So, I mean, the similar way, like when I was working on this GDMT template, I simply inform myself on all the existing metadata templates to describe dataset. And I was, for example, as I said, like I was reading through the specifications of Dataset. And through the Dataset template, I figure out like, okay, I see what this template has. And I based, because I've been working for many years with data, I know what I was missing to completely describe data that I'm working with. So then I figure out, okay, I need these extra fields to be inserted. So then I'll read yet another. I read a lot of different specs about templates online, and try to kind of combine them in what we are working on today. So it's a lot of investigation work, I would say, to start with. So, but at least when it comes to the GDMT, like you have all these assets now inside of the Cedar that you can reuse, that could be a starting point. And generic dataset metadata template has a GitHub repository. There is an Excel sheet that describes all the elements and all the fields and their definitions, and then what kind of RDF properties are attached to those fields, and then potential control vocabulary. There's a very nice Excel sheet online. I can of course quickly show you if you want to see, but the link is also in the slides that I provide.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, because that's the hardest part for me. Where do I find what I need? I can learn how to build this. Well, that was an easy part, but then the next step is much harder.
It is in the sense of like, okay, how to do this and how to build. But yeah, usually you start with what's already there, and then in either you've been creating data or using somebody else's data, so you start feeling, okay, what will be great as a data user, what kind of information should be there, because at the end of the day, that you try to tune it ideally for the data user, so they can quickly find the data and then easily and use it with the ease. So it's a lot of, again, discussions and as we had them in the day one, you know, how to call stuff, where to source the definitions, should I provide it in 5 languages or only 1 language? What is the best way to call a field in this case? What is the best RDF property that I should attach? Thankfully, when it comes to the templates, metadata templates, we are really using a lot doubling core. The doubling core is the base of Dataset as well, and it is a base of DCAT that I presented on the first day as well. So that's doubling core is always a good starting point. To be honest, that's how we in the wind energy in 2017, when we started working with fair data. That's where we start. We start with the doubling core. I learned how to build so-called doubling core profiles because I'm not a librarian or I didn't have any of those skills myself, but I was sufficiently curious to dig deeper and deeper. And the first that was many people were doing before we moved to the semantic technologies. They were building these doubling core application profiles, and I will send you a link so you can see what we did for the wind energy as a starting point. And then thankfully doubling core comes with an ontology which is machine actionable, so we can directly use it in Cedar.
And I would add to that, you know, the metadata for machine workshops that we've run up till now have been really focused on working with the tools, you know, with CDAR, with BioPortal, what semantics markup looks like. And I think there is also room for, and when we started doing M4Ms and Go Fair a couple of years ago, we knew there would be multiple things to think about here. And, you know, I think we shifted the balance towards this technology issue for now, which is great because it's all very practical and everyone sees what needs to happen. But I think we will also come back and we may, you know, I can imagine that there would be metadata for machine workshops that are devoted only at the level, just deciding what our schema are going to be. And so how, you know, what's the granularity of the metadata we want to capture? What are our choices on the vocabularies, on the subjects, and how much will we require our users to use versus, having required elements versus a larger set of elements that might be bonuses. All these are really good discussions to have, and they don't, not all of them should be solved at the individual level. So if you're going to create a metadata template, it's nice, it's very helpful if your community or the community that you can identify with has already given you these best practices or these standards to follow. So I think we're also, once we get our skills with the technology and kind of this workflow, we can then begin to start asking more higher level best practices type questions. And my hope would be is that over time, communities will emerge that will just formulate for themselves, these are very efficient practices. We don't want to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. So, here's some good practical recommendations to follow when building metadata. But at least there'll be much more, very practical kinds of recommendations given, because I think we're grounded now in the technology of this and in the fair principles aspects of it.
Should we go to next exercise?
Yes.
And now we are going to update the template. So you're now going to remove one of the existing generic element and put what you just created, which is very specific for this work.
And there's also now this red because it's required, right?
Indeed.
Okay, go back to the GDMT folder. Sorry, went one too far. Okay. Now update. This one needs to be double clicked.
Takes time to load because it's big.
And current resource type. This one needs to be deleted, right?
Correct.
Just by pressing the cross there. Then we go and search for the new resource type. And select the basic assets folder. Resource type element. Move resource and we select and just press select, right?
Correct.
Okay. And now you want me to move this all the way up.
All the way up, indeed. So it will take a bit of, just keep go, and now it's going to slowly move.
It's going. And it's going, let's slowly. Yes. Let's see if this drops in the right place.
No, it went all the way down. Yeah, I knew that this exercise will be more about,
it went to just one. Okay. And okay. Let's
so
try
the trick is that to put it just below dataset identifier
and then move it the other one down.
Then, yes, exactly.
I wanted that before I released it, but I just did a stupid thing.
No, it's not stupid. I made the same mistake multiple times. So
is it meant to be this slow? Or
it is slow, and you will see it in the YouTube video as well. It takes me time to move, and then finally I landed. So
almost there. there. And now I move this one just below
Awesome, great.
that. Okay.
Mike is enjoying your exercise, Rita.
I'm glad I can be of help, Mike. Okay, to its top. Enter preferred label. Okay, so now we can resource type. Okay, the triangle icon, add property. In the search bar, type has resource. No. Not together. Select and add property as resource.
That's the correct one.
This one, because it's F.
Yeah, I can see that actually John made a second instance of the same template for Vodan General. Probably he was modifying. Select that one, FDC GDMT. That's,
maybe this one should be made more specific with that is this source.
yeah, because before it wasn't. It was when I was making video recording. But good point. I'm modifying the slide as we speak. So thank you.
Now you can see what you need to change. Okay. Correct the enter element name to be resource type. Where? Enter element name to resource type. Okay. I'll leave it here for a little while and then press save at the bottom.
So what happens when you add a property, RDF property, that's against Cedar's way of operating? It changes this enter element name or enter field name automatically. So that's why we are correcting this every time. Something to report to John as well, that it's that they should not automatically change things once the RDF property is added to an element or a field. And I have modified the slide, so you'll get the new copy of PDFs after the workshop today.
About 2 minutes to go. Okay, that's 10 minutes.
Okay. I'm going to, maybe should have done this already before, but save. I assume it's going to go okay. Yes. So I can go back to the folder and press the label icon. The label icon.
That's the correct one. This
Yes, the populate. yeah.
populate. And now we are supposed to make a metadata. So, Eric, you had an idea.
Sure, and you had an idea. So let's start first with a question to everyone to do step 10 here. Does any of the data stewards have a data set that they would like to build some metadata for? And ideally, you've got a permanent identifier to that data set so that we can use it in the form. So it's a question to everyone. Maybe raise your hand if you have an idea that you would like to try.
Shall I stop
Yeah.
showing? Because if someone else wants to use their...
Yes, they can share the screen if they want to report on the data set.
And thank you for letting me do this. It was fun.
Yeah, I'm happy that you enjoyed.
Yeah. I don't normally have the time to do this kind of thing, so it's nice.
Yeah, practical work. Yeah. Anybody?
So anybody has, I don't know, survey data, genomics data, cohort data.
Yeah, so we can try to fill in one of the templates and make metadata. That's basically the last exercise of today.
I'll set the timer for 10 minutes for people to decide.
Yeah.
Well, I work also for a department with metabolic diseases. They have a registry, but there's absolutely nothing there yet. No metadata, but also no DOI. We have to do everything.
Okay.
I have no idea where to start.
So I will paste the link of a publication that I just found on Zenodo, because it has a DOI, has everything. So somebody can have a look and maybe volunteer to move information from Zenodo to this template. That could be a starting point. And
yeah, so who would like to make metadata for that Zenodo data set?
I get a message that Zenodo is temporarily out of operation.
No, me too.
Really?
We bad luck.
oh my God.
Oh my God,
Listen,
that's catastrophic.
that's
We were just there like 2 minutes ago.
yeah. I was like, okay. You see, but Cedar is still on, so we have better uptime.
Well, still, we had the link, right? We could still go ahead with the link, assuming that Zenodo comes back to life one day.
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
We expect service to be available 9:15 UTC, but doesn't say any date. Wait, I'm trying to. I actually kept it in my for 20 minutes, 9:15. I kept the. I can share the screen.
Yeah.
So,
Whatever it was already been more than 20 minutes, because from 9:15.
No, because I just posted the link to Eric while you were modifying GDMT as a fallback solution in case we don't have anything that we can try to move.
Really, less than 10 minutes ago, we were there. Yeah.
We were just looking at this, and then suddenly,
which is really interesting, right? Because this whole approach is allowing for a very distributed set of metadata and data, right? It doesn't really matter where these things are. They're connected through permanent identifiers.
Indeed.
And then everyone immediately starts thinking, oh, well, we should have some reliable repository. I don't want my data just sitting on my hard drive or floating around somewhere. We need a reliable service to host the data. And what could be more reliable than Zenodo?
It's back. It's back. Linda just tried. So actually, it's back. So you can. So it would be great if one of the participants volunteered to share the screen and start and instantiate the GDMT template and move information, because we want to protect that information exactly from these things happening or losing metadata.
Until Cedar is off the. Is also not working.
So hopefully it's not going to be offline at the same time as Zenodo.
So one question is: are there any projects represented here that are more from because Nicola, this is a kind of sociological data set, correct? Yeah. So is there anybody from the from a more sociological economic domain right now? Because if you could then publish this right under in a sense under your project.
Oh yeah, that was Carlijn. That
she's like she is, but the template isn't working.
Yeah, she's the one who needed the help after this.
That's right, but maybe let's try to help her to make template work, and then she can actually try to. I'm putting you on. Yeah. Let's
okay.
have. Carlijn, if you want to share the screen, please do that, so we can then see what was the issue, so we can help you.
So, where did it go? I can here fill in data sets.
Yes.
But here it's empty.
Yeah, that's right, because you didn't make an element because the resource type element that we see now with those two fields, that's the original GDMT element that needs to be removed, as Rita did. She actually made a new resource type element.
Oh, then I removed the wrong one.
Yeah. So if you go back, yes, and now go to basic assets, click new, because we need to make a new element, and then for time being, just like, yeah, that's right, the resource, how was the exercise? It's
detail, I guess.
resource type.
Yeah,
No, it's resource type, because now we are going to put those two fields under the same element, and then click on wait, click X. Don't do this. Click X. That's right. Click on the magnifying glass. Just go down.
Oh, there.
That's right. Click. Select first one.
This one?
Yeah.
Category?
Yes, select that one. Then add the second one as well, because now we are putting those two fields to be part of the same. No, stop! Don't go back. Click again. Magnifying glass. Again.
Okay.
Then click on that one. That's right.
Yeah.
Now you have those two in. So click on required.
Required? Where?
You see this exactly. Go left. Go down. You
Oh,
see?
there.
That's right. So then say required.
And for the top one as well, right?
Yes, that's right. So both of them, they should be required. And click yes. Can you, just for a moment, can you click values just to be sure that you did put the control vocabulary? You did, okay. And show me for the second one as well. Click required. Values. Awesome, great. We will not go into add RDF properties because it will take us some time. So it's okay. Just click save. Save element. Okay, now go back. That's right. Click, yeah, go to GDMT. Double click.
Label.
Don't populate. No, you now need to modify it because you have to modify it with this new element. Double click on that one. Wait, and now click X. So now we need to remove that element, which is old element, and put the new element. Click X. You in the rest, you see now. No. Yeah. Okay. So you see this resource type.
Yeah.
And you see X over there, like in the upper right corner of that element. No, not of the browser, of that element.
No.
You see? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. You click
Okay.
that one, and now you delete. Click. Click again, magnifying glass. Go to basic assets. And click, that's right. Just before you clicking, you see the differences. The things with the one cube, those are fields which we combine inside of that resource type element, which has multiple cubes as an icon. So you're going to click on this resource type with the multiple cubes as an icon.
This one?
No, that's a field. Like top one is an element. So we are adding the element. That's right. Click on that one. And it should be having this select. Okay, great. Wait. And now click and move it on the top. It will take a little bit of time. That's okay.
La-di-da-di-da.
Almost there. And slowly now. Don't. It will happen same for Rita. Like go a little bit down. Just put it down. Just below dataset. Just go down now. Up. Stop. What? A little bit more. No, a little bit more. Wait. Put it there. A little bit. Just above the version.
Okay, here.
Wait. Move it. Oh.
It's not creating the space.
Yeah, you need like a little bit, just tiny bit on left. Try to align it with. Just put it there. Yep.
Here?
Yes. Hopefully it will work. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Scroll down and press save. All the way down. Yeah. Save template. Should be green. Okay, great. Now go back on the error. So upper left corner of the browser, just next to the generic data set. Left. Yeah. Click there. And now you see this small populate. You see how many? Yes.
Yeah.
Click on populate. Now you should be able to select, like, let's say data set, press OK. Now, what is this? Let's see what kind of, what do you have as an option to select? Diagnostic diaries, environmental field. Is there any more? Should be.
There's a lot.
Political. Social data, am I right? Select one of those that you consider that. Click OK. And then you can just keep basically use, you will now get the DOI from the link that I'm going to send you. So click on the link in the chat, which will lead you to the Zenodo. And that's where we are going to get the information from.
Oh, where did the chat go?
And now you have to find the chat. Yeah. Okay, now we're going to get the DOI. So scroll down. Don't worry, just scroll down. I will tell you where it is. Yeah, you see the DOI. You see the DOI just above start type and citation style. You see the DOI. It starts with 10.5281/Zenodo. So you need to copy that the DOI.
I don't.
On the right hand side.
On the right hand side, like cite as, just move your cursor up. That's right. Good. The last row in that text.
Here.
Yes, and you copy from 10 point. No, it's the whole thing after a slash. Yeah, that's right. So
now I see it.
Copy that one. Now go back to our template. That's right. Press OK. And it is DOI already. Just click that just to show to everybody what kind of identifiers are there available that you can see. It has all these other type of identifiers that you could provide about your data set. You have classical URL, you get other stuff and so on. So, but for time being, we're using DOI. So just select the DOI.
Yeah.
You can skip version because we don't care about that one. Primary language, select in English. I think this is all in English. So type EN. That's okay. And then again, language, you can put EN again, because this is in case there are like other languages, but which there aren't. So select EN. Dataset title, we just copy paste that one from Zenodo.
Yeah, it's the code again, this one?
No, it's the title. Now go back to Zenodo. Click back to Zenodo. And scroll all the way up. And copy that CMU, that's the title of the data set. Press OK. Press OK because by default, the title, I said that it's in English. Okay. You don't need to put the subjects. That's you can see now, like, no need to do anything there. So it's not mandatory. We are just going to now to fill in the mandatory. Creator name, just put the first creator over there. You just go back again to the Zenodo. Put the one name. That's sufficient that we demonstrate this. So go back to that, enter. You just remove that Mellon University. You just need to. Maybe you can cut it so you can actually use it very soon. Yeah, that's good. That's okay. That's fine. Press OK. And then go to creator identifier. Scroll down. What you're now going to do, go back again to Zenodo. And you see this ID next to Melon. That's ORCID ID. Go there. Just hover over this ID green button. Click on that one. And copy this whole URL. That's the ORCID ID of the author. Just copy that one. Go back to the template. Press OK. And then select, yeah, that's right. So immediately it's ORCID ID.
Okay. Yeah.
Good. And then you scroll all the way down. You don't need those, are not mandatory. Let's see what's left of the mandatory. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Right.
Oh, license name.
Wait.
We missed one. This one.
That's right. So license name. If you go back to go back to that ORCID and then ORCID website and go back. So it will bring you back to the Zenodo. Scroll down. let's see, meeting, license. Okay, license is creative. So copy that text, Creative Commons Attribution International. Copy. Great. Now go back to project, to the template. Press OK. And press OK as well. So we have both. We have, you don't need license tag, it's not mandatory. And then dataset date type. So publish, select OK. And then the date. Go back now again to Zenodo. Let's see when it was published. What does it say? September 19th. Yes. So we need that date, but in the specific format. So it's a 09/ That's right.
2000.
Great. Then press OK. Let's see if we have any other mandatory fields. We don't. I don't think so. List. I don't think so. No. Go scroll all the way down. Ah, you have a double. Because you made it multiple times. I can see that you've been adding more. It's okay. Let's select so we can do that. So we can wrap up this. So
I don't know how many times I did this.
it's okay. Press OK. Then yeah, select whatever social data. Yes. I mean, you can go back then after the workshop and correct this. Basically, that's all. Yes. And then again. Then OK. Then save. Let's see. Yeah, now you created the metadata. Go back. So click next to this ribbon so you can step out. That's right. You see this ribbon now next to this template. That's your metadata. Click on those 3 dots. Go down. Go down. Go down. Now right. That's the meta. That's actually metadata. Click on that one and scroll down and select Enable Open View. We don't see it because your screen. Yeah, Enable Open View. Now everybody can see it. Now click again.
Here?
Yes, and then Visit Open View. And you log in. The metadata you're trying to view is open for viewing, but the corresponding template is not. So go back to the Cedar, something that I need to add to the information. Click on those 3 points on the template itself.
And this one.
That's right. And then click Enable Open View. So I will modify now that inside of our exercises and then click Enable Open View. Then go back to and visit. Great. Now you have a metadata.
Woohoo! Pop
and now you can and now if you click on those yes, to open up information like next to the resource type or data identifier, you will see these information provided nicely. And if you version is, of course, we didn't fill it in, so it's empty, but it's always displayed even if you populate it or not.
Okay.
And if you scroll all the way down, now these are the 3 metadata in JSON LD format or RDF format. So if you click RDF, for example, what you see is exactly this bunch of triplets. You can see now how actually the machinic metadata looks like. It's like a URL and then a value, URL and a value, because these are the key value pairs that we've been seeing around. So that's the machinic representation of the metadata. So basically, you completed all the exercises. Well done.
Yay.
Yeah, awesome. Caroline, can you please maybe include your link in OpenView in the chat window?
Put it in the chat window.
And maybe a question for Rita. if we move the metadata instance to the appropriate location, I guess it will be picked up by the Health RI portal.
Not yet, because this specific template has not been modeled on the portal yet.
Correct.
That's so we'll have to take a look at this. So that's the next. Well, the next step is really the changes that have been made to the content template still need to be modeled back onto the portal, and after that is done, we can model this one. Not everything on the template, most probably, but
yeah,
some information.
Yeah, and it's yeah, these are another round of decision making. What do we want to show?
Yeah,
and yeah,
and maybe it's also for some of the people in this group to help me guide me on what they think is most appropriate from this template to be shown as a facet for searching or not.
Yeah. So I included Caroline's OpenView link in the common notes, so everyone can get to it there as well.
I can see it.
We have 15 minutes left. I have a few slides I can show just to kind of frame the next 2 days of this workshop series. And I know many of you will not be able to join in the next 2 days, but I can already show you where this would go in the next 2 days and in what people will see when they come to the new workshop. But maybe also another comment here is that something really, in a way, non-traditional has happened just now. Something very atypical to the way we usually build workflows. In this case, we have Caroline making machine actionable metadata for somebody else's data set. And it doesn't really matter that it's at Zenodo, it could be anywhere. But we have a DOI for it. We have some kind of persistent identifier for it. But this is pretty cool, right? Because now we've really kind of detached the metadata from the data, although they're permanently linked. We have used specialized knowledge from the domain, but also of the technical elements to compose that metadata. So it's not easy, it's pretty complicated, but at least we're getting more formulaic in the application. And it kind of opens the door now. You could have, for example, if Zone and Vey thought it was very important to have previous data from other programs to be made more fair or to be brought into the Health RI portal, Zone and Vey could launch entire projects that are just kind of retrospective metadata creation. And you could begin verifying previously created data to make them more reusable and make them more fair. So it's just a pretty interesting opportunity that's now possible for us that these tools are existing. I have just 5 or 6 slides here to prep for the next couple of days. Let me go through the first 3 slides, but then we can also open it up for if people want to respond or reflect. But maybe this is the way to round it out. We just did day 1 and day 2 of this data set metadata for machine workshop. And it was focusing on the generic data set metadata template. And on day 1, we created the subject vocabulary, and we used the sheet to RDF pipeline for that. In day 2, we created a customized data set template. So I'm going to call it the generic to specific data set metadata template. That's a horrible acronym, sorry. And what's coming up then on the next 2 sessions is that we shift our attention to this iAdopt framework. And this is now kind of focusing in, becoming more granular in your descriptions, your metadata descriptions. But iAdopt allows us to then talk about individual variables and to model the metadata, kind of the components around those. At first, the IADOPT group was talking about observable properties. So it could be, not just something that you might measure with a, in a quantitative way, but it could be just things that you observe. But IADOPT accommodates that. So you'll learn about that on day 3, and on day 4, you'll again go through a terminology exercise to create some terms to demonstrate how the IADOPT framework can be used. And you will end up with a CDAR template for modeling variables. And maybe here, these are metadata descriptions around these workshops. So Nicola has really composed and formulated the GDMT exercises. And he likes to call this the rapid M4M. So, even if we wanted to, within one day, we could go from 0 all the way to an open view metadata instance. So great job, Nicola, and great job, everyone on here. Great job, Rita, for showing us how to do that. And on the second 2 days, this is Barbara, who's been leading this IADOPT framework in the RDA. And it's really about these variable descriptions. So I'll show you a little bit more about IADOPT, but I'm just wondering if we pause for a moment here, if anybody has a comment on what we've just done today and what we've done on Tuesday and today.
I'd just like to say maybe that even though I haven't had time to prepare very well, I could follow very well, and I have a much better understanding of how we can make use of these templates also for different disciplines within the university. So thanks.
And FICA, it sounds like you might even be willing to be someone who could be a train the trainer person at some point. Maybe you can train other people how to do this.
Yeah, I think that's what we are looking for at the university to start, to start adopting this. And maybe I will not be the trainer myself, but my colleagues in the team can be. So something to explore.
Yeah,
who's best placed to do it, but we'll definitely want to give this a go. Yeah.
Yeah, so we can see, right, that with all these basic elements now and Nicola's instruction manual, we can imagine, iterating over this a few more times and really coming up with a streamlined curriculum. And people could be trained to do this pretty readily in their home institution. With a huge benefit that all this is now fair, right? And all this could be interoperable, even though you're working in very independent places and doing very different work. Any other comments? Okay, so tell you what, let me do a quick introduction to the IADOPT framework. And given everything you've been through up till now with the workshops in November, the vocabulary exercises in February, and now the rapid M4M that we've just have been through, it could be a pretty smooth transition, I think, for most of you into the IADOPT framework. And what Barbara and her colleagues were able to accomplish in the last 18 months of this RDA working group is to create and kind of come to an agreement on a conceptual model for this observable property or variable. And this is a high level view of that conceptual model. These slides are in my slide deck on the OSF right now, so you can get to them yourself. This graphic is the link here, and the documentation for IADOPT is here. I'll put this in the chat. And this documentation actually has examples there as well of, this this documentation, this Google Doc has links to examples in there. But you know, what you see at the high level here, there's a variable. So a thing you would observe, you would measure, you would be, you know, would be the subject of your investigation. And then you can see there is an ontology, IOP, IADOP. And this variable has properties. It has an object of interest. There's observed entity roles. There's context, constraints. And Barbara will lead you through what the meaning of these things are. An example taken from molecular biology is here. So, you know, in a research article, somebody might say something about, oh yeah, I have 18S ribosomal RNA. I got amplicons from this thing. And, you know, this is taken from picoplankton from oceanic samples. So what is this so that's a human readable version of what you're observing, what you're measuring. But here's how you can break it down into a machine readable format. So what you really have here is a nucleotide sequence of a 18S ribosomal RNA. And of course, we would have a concept and an identifier for what we mean by nucleotide sequence, what we mean by 18S ribosomal RNA. It comes from somewhere. There's a context to this. So there's an organism that it's coming from, and it's coming from this larger environment of ocean water. And you could continue to model things even in more detail from here. But here's another example from chemistry. The concentration of an endosulfan sulfate from this organism, from the fleshy part of this organism. Right? So it's a biological sample, but you're taking a concentration per unit mass. And there's ways to talk about concentration in a machine actionable way as well. Barbara will talk about that. But you can talk about concentration of this sulfate coming from this organism's flesh, and it's not the dry weight, but the wet weight. It's the actual flesh itself. So again, this is a way to begin breaking down exactly what you mean by your measurements that you're taking. And then this is kind of nice, I think, for the COVID program. It's a social science example, and this was created by a colleague, Peter Munchke, who, you know, what's nice about this is that Peter's a guy working in Germany. He has nothing to do with the COVID program, but this is an example of survey type variables and something that we could reuse quite effectively in the COVID program. So here's an example of a question posed in a survey. To what extent are you affected by corona measures? Well, there's this property of effectiveness. It's of a person, and it's about corona measures. And I think, yes, I think on Tuesday, Nicola, was it Renata who formulated a corona measures term?
That's right. It was effectiveness of corona measures. I will try to find on the.
So amazing, right? So already we can see that there's going to be some overlap here. Anyways, you can get to these examples. And this is a preview of what we will do. And again, we could go on in infinite detail describing the work we do. So we have to find a balance, and we will find a practical balance. And you know, over time, if it's valuable to create very detailed variable descriptions, well, then our institutions will find resources for us to do that. But in the meantime, we can kind of push the envelope and try and see how far we can take this, and you know, expand our knowledge base on this. What's really radical and very interesting about modeling variables is that if you think about it, in the end, what Machreit is paying us to do as scientists in the COVID program is to observe the world, to make measurements, to record data. All of the other things we do about the administration template and the content areas and even the data set descriptions, all of that is in service of the data that we are collecting. This is what we're paid to do. And here we have a chance to begin modeling the essence of our work in a machine actionable way, and then we can clothe it in dataset metadata, at project level content metadata, at project administration metadata. So it becomes really quite powerful in the end. We have a minute to go. I don't want to go, we have no minutes to go. I don't want to go too far over time. Maybe just, I would like to ask Nicola, maybe if you could, Nicola, briefly, do you see how the variable descriptions and IADOP might fit into the dataset metadata template?
I mean, basically, at the end of the day, it's a sort of like, at the end, turns into control vocabulary that you will select on the variable level. So it will not have all this, because at the end of, when you describe it so well, each of these deep granular description will have, again, identifier, and that's what we can select and put as a variable inside of the GDMT. So it's really leans towards the direct implementation, exactly what we did today. I mean, we added the control vocabulary of specific resource types related to the zone MV. So we repeat these all exercises that we did today again once we have variables put in the IADOP framework, because they all have PIDs that we can refer to.
Yeah. Very nice. So it's all very modular.
It is. It is. Everything is modular. That's right. So
with the PIDs, and so imagine, 3 years from now, 2 or 3 years from now, Machreit could launch a query on the COVID program, which would then by then be over. All of us would have moved on to other projects, but she could come back and launch a query and ask for everything that was ever measured in the COVID program. So regardless of the data set, regardless of the project, of the institution, whatever, we could still look at the complete set of data that was created under this research program. So those are the comments that I would make. Is there any other final comments or observations, questions? Okay. Well, I guess then we can adjourn for today. And I would like to thank Nicola big time for putting all this together for us. I think it worked very smoothly and we got some great results. And thanks, Rita, for participating and showing us your screen like that. And thanks to Jeroen in the background for the work he did yesterday and today. And with that, I'd like to say thank you very much and have a good day.
thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.